Chapter 434, Eyes Open. The sky filled with bright colors and wailing cries. The 5 tribes' faces flickered as they looked up. The Great Fathers, priests, and Grand Elders formed a considerable group of nascent soul experts, more than 20 in total. In the southern domain, they would count as a mid-sized sect. Of course, without a spirit-severing cultivator, they couldn't be considered great. In the western desert, the 5-tribe alliance was a powerful force, equivalent to a mid-sized tribe. Yet the powerful experts stared up at the enormous spiders, their faces darkening. That's the Great 5 Poisons tribe. To be able to control such a large number of spiders, that guy must be Zhou Yi, rank 9 Dragoneer from the spider branch. I've heard that he's haughty to the extreme. His cultivation base is only in the mid-core formation stage, but as a rank 9 Dragoneer, he controls a vast amount of neodemons, plus 32 level 10 giant neodemons comparable to the nascent soul stage. In recent years, he single-handedly exterminated many tribes. As the 5 tribes' faces fell and the nascent soul experts' hearts sank, the cries grew more intense. Tens of thousands of ferocious spiders poured down to hover in midair. The savage aura of this black mass spread across the entire mountain range. The 32 level 10 neodemons, each hundreds of meters long, whistled through the air, emanating a powerful aura similar to nascent soul cultivation. The explosive power shook everything. Behind the 32 level 10 spiders was the gigantic meteorite, about 300 meters up. Its exterior was pitch black, but its interior glowed with violet light, making the man inside appear completely violet. Powerful pressure emanated forth, causing the 5 great tribes to grow pale. Wu Ling, Wu Chen, and the others began to breathe heavily, fear filling their faces. The young man atop the huge spider called out in a sharp voice, "My lord, the exalted Dragoneer Zhou Yi of the 5 Poison Tribe's spider branch desires to battle any cultivator in the world. You have 3 chances to win. If you fail, your 5 tribes will be washed clean with blood." Arrogance marked his expression as his voice echoed across all directions. He waved his right hand, a red jade slip shooting down. It exploded, transforming into a red mist that billowed out to form a red battle platform 3,000 meters wide. You have 20 breaths. If no one steps forward, it's a forfeiture, and the cleansing by blood will begin. The young man licked his lips, bloodthirst gleaming in his eyes. Around him, the 32 gigantic spiders with nascent soul-comparable cultivation bases had cold-blooded expressions and emitted vicious auras. The 5 tribes fell silent. The 20 or so nascent soul cultivators, including the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather, exchanged glances. The 5 tribe alliances combined might made it impossible for Zhou Yi alone to exterminate them, even with 32 level 10 neodemons. Their defensive spell formations and sacred ancients were more than enough for this crisis. Yet what truly worried them was what Zhou Yi represented, the 5 Poisons tribe. As wily old foxes, these nascent soul eccentrics, all Greatfathers, priests, and Grand Elders, immediately grasped the situation. They're probing us. The Crow Divinity Holy Land just collapsed, so the 5 Poisons tribe is hesitant to come now. They're feeling us out. Right? If we fight and win, we frighten them and gain time. Even better if we kill him, perfect. Alternatively, we don't fight. We activate the protective spell formation and let them attack. The latter has advantages and disadvantages. The former is the most direct. The nascent soul cultivators fell silent. Glances were exchanged, and many turned toward the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather. Since Meng Hao was a Grand Dragoneer, the Crow Scout tribe held a high position in the 5-tribe alliance. "Constantly running from conflict reveals weakness," he said. "The Great 5 Poisons tribe won't be stupid. They'll see the truth. When real conflict comes, we'll be weak indeed. This battle must be fought. That man must be killed. Strike like lightning and exterminate him. It will inspire fear." Ruthlessness gleamed in the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather's eyes. "Fight." Just as the 5 tribes prepared to attack, a howl sounded from the distant forest. Big Harry shot out carrying a small, dead animal. In an instant, he was beneath the myriad of spiders overhead. Behind him came the rest of the Greenwood wolves, all dashing at top speed with animals in their mouths. They often hunted for food and rested outside the courtyard where Meng Hao was in seclusion. At this moment, they were returning from such a hunt. Their sudden appearance caused disturbance among the spiders. The 32 giant spiders retracted their auras, cold looks appearing in their eyes. Said Zhou Yi, surprise on his face as he sat up straight inside his meteorite, eyes glittering as he looked at Big Harry. "That's a wolf king, and it's been mutated. Excellent, excellent. I never imagined finding such a neo-demon here. The ones behind it aren't as good but still worthy. As Joe muttered, the ground shook and a roar echoed from the forest. The wild giant crashed out from the trees. Its enormous frame was shocking, and the instant it appeared, the surrounding spiders emitted strange calls. The 32 giant spiders shrieked, assuming vigilant and threatening postures. "That's a wild giant," said Joe, eyes wide. "There's actually a wild giant here." He stood up, disbelief on his face. Fervor and greed shone in his eyes as he stared at the wild giant. According to legend, the blood of a wild giant can increase the bizarre power of secret dragoneer arts. Furthermore, when mixed with neo-demon food, it can have an amazing effect on their progress. Even more important, if I can subjugate a wild giant, then my status and position in the tribe will be completely different. Joe laughed uproariously, eyes shining as he pointed at the wild giant. "Bring me that wild giant and those greenwood wolves immediately." He had forgotten the Crimson War declaration entirely. As his words rang out, the surrounding spiders shot through the air toward Big Harry and the others. Ferocious power erupted from the 32 giant spiders as they shot spiderwebs toward the wild giant. The 5 Poison's tribe members on their backs flew forward in attack. Joe sent his meteorite flying forward, completely ignoring the 5 Tribe Alliance. The 5 Tribe Alliance members stared in shock. The Crow Scout Tribe Greatfather and the others exchanged delighted glances. Of all the people to provoke, this Joe picks Grandmaster Meng. It seems we won't have to do a thing today. This Joe will definitely be thwarted. Big Harry swallowed the animal in his jaws and howled. His body expanded, savagery filling his eyes as he charged toward the incoming spiders. Harry too and the others let out successive howls. The wild giant's eyes widened as it roared and attacked. Roaring echoed in all directions. Facing the onslaught of spiders, including the 32 terrifying giant ones, Big Harry, the Greenwood Wolves, and the wild giant were in great peril. Huge webs descended on Harry too and the other Greenwood Wolves, making it impossible to struggle. No matter how they howled, they couldn't shake off the webs. Big Harry lifted his head and let out a powerful howl. The level 10 spiders turned their attention to the wild giant. Covered in hundreds of huge webs, it cried out in pain. Big Harry's eyes were red as he glared at Joe and his flying meteorite. His body flickered as he dodged one of the giant webs. Then he turned into a beam of white light that shot directly toward Joe. Joe stood in his meteorite, laughing as Big Harry approached. He raised his hand and gestured forward. Secret Dragoneer art burst the void. A huge spider materialized in the air and slammed into Big Harry. Big Harry let out a miserable shriek as his white fur burst into flames, not red but black, poisonous in nature. His body shook and blood sprayed from his mouth. Dispirited, he spun around and transformed into a beam of light that shot off into the distance. "You seem intelligent, but now that you're poisoned by my secret Dragoneer art, where will you flee? Based on neo-demon behavior, you'll seek your master. Very well, I'll kill him and use his blood to sever your bond." Laughing, Joe flicked his sleeve. Countless spiders flew with him in pursuit of Big Harry. The sight was quite impressive as they gave chase. Big Harry's expression was dismal, a black aura emanating from his body. Had he not consumed a demon-nurturing pill, he'd have become a pool of blood already. His body trembled as he let out growling howls, shooting through the air. Circling the mountain, he neared the area surrounded by mist for the past month. Gula sat cross-legged there. His eyes suddenly opened as he saw what was happening. His face immediately fell. Big Harry, grief and sorrow in his eyes, howled disconsolately as the massive spider horde closed in. The instant the howl echoed out, deep within the mist, Meng Hao, sitting cross-legged in his courtyard, suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, thousands of other pairs of eyes within the mist suddenly opened. More than 10 pairs among them emanated shocking auras. Chapter 435, Big Harry Tattles. "Is this where your master lives?" asked Joe, smiling calmly within his meteorite. He was extremely aloof. All living things were mere insects to him, and few things caught his interest. His eyes then flickered over toward Gula. "A rank 7 Dragoneer, presumably this is your master." With a smile, Joe neared the seemingly weak and dying white wolf and then shook his head. He was surrounded by more than 10,000 spiders circulating around his body and blotting out the sky. A shocking aura spread, especially from the 32 giant spiders emanating ripples comparable to the early nascent soul stage. Gula breathed heavily as he stared at the scene. When his gaze fell on Joe, he gasped. It wasn't difficult to identify the man. Based on the power emanating from him, he was either a Grand Dragoneer or a Rank 9 Dragoneer. "Sticking with a Rank 7 Dragoneer can't compare to following me," said Zhou Yi, eyes flickering with contempt. He waved his right hand. Instantly, a 300-meter large spider flew toward Gu La, emanating killing intent. "First I'll exterminate your master," Zhou Yi said coolly, "and then use his blood to sever your bond. From now on, you're coming with me." The 300-meter large spider descended upon Gu La. A cold snort echoed from within the mist. It started faint, but in an instant became like thunder, sending invisible waves toward the incoming spider. This giant spider with early nascent soul power trembled. It shrieked and retreated. Before it moved a few meters, it shook violently, its body exploding into bits. A simple sound destroyed a 300-meter large spider. Zhou Yi's expression completely changed, filling with grave astonishment. Meng Hao's figure slowly became visible as he walked out from the roiling mists. His pace was slow, but as he walked, the mist seethed as if cloaked around him. His powerful aura soared into the heavens. After acquiring 2 totem tattoos, Meng Hao's cultivation base was powerful enough to tangle with the early nascent soul stage, but certainly not so strong that he could kill an early nascent soul cultivator with a single snort. Unfortunately for the spider, it was a neo-demon, not a cultivator. As a demon sealer, Meng Hao could naturally emit pressure upon neo-demons. He'd mastered this during the past month, commanding the neo-demons in his bag of holding. Meng Hao called it demonic pressure. Now that he could use demonic pressure, Meng Hao was a Grand Dragoneer in more than just name only. As he strolled out, Zhou Yi's face flickered. He backed up a few paces. The more than 10,000 spiders began to tremble. To them, Meng Hao was the most powerful neo-demon in the world. Some let out miserable shrieks. "Grand Dragoneer," Zhou Yi panted as he looked at the neo-demon's reaction. A buzzing filled his mind, a feeling he'd experienced only when meeting Grand Dragoneers in his tribe. Despite his changing expression, Zhou Yi said, "Well, so what if you're a Grand Dragoneer? How many neo-demons do you have, you?" Before he could finish, droning sounds came from the black mist behind Meng Hao as nearly 1,000 green mosquitoes appeared. Each mosquito was about 3 meters long with long, sharp mouthparts. Their bodies were covered with bristly fur, looking matchlessly malevolent as they blotted out the sky. "Demonsquitoes," gasped Zhou Yi, eyes wide. Such creatures were rare in the western desert. In his entire life, he'd only ever seen 10. They had the fearsome ability to drain blood from vastly larger creatures, and worse, they were extremely poisonous in some aspects, not truly poison but a plague. These demonsquitoes were incredibly powerful, and the fact that there were over 1,000 caused Zhou Yi to breathe deeply. The 10,000 spiders began to shriek, many falling prone to the ground, not daring to move. Behind the 1,000 demonsquitoes, black light appeared. Within it flew countless black crows. Their eyes emanated a shocking, bright red glow. "Those are demon crows," a buzzing filled Zhou Yi's brain. Crows such as these were rare in the western desert. Most frightening were the legends about them. They supposedly had some connection with the dead. They could supposedly bring dead people back to life. Some of the spiders next to Zhou Yi were now completely ignoring any of his commands. They prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to move even a muscle. More neo-demons appeared behind Meng Hao. Each caused Zhou Yi's expression to flicker. When the red crocodile appeared, he gasped, his face filling with unprecedented astonishment. "Searing Demondile, that's a neo-demon from ancient times. They're born at level 8 within volcanic depths." The giant lizard crawled out next. It let out a bellowing roar that caused the surrounding black mist to congeal and be sucked into its mouth. "That's another ancient neo-demon, heaven-slaughtering lizard." Zhou Yi's entire body shook. His spiders were all frightened to death. Even the 300-meter large spiders trembled, prostrating themselves, not daring to move. "Who did I provoke? A Grand Dragoneer with so many fearsome neo-demons. Even the Grand Dragoneers in my tribe don't have neo-demons that compare." Zhou Yi's face was ashen. "Sir." Before he could finish, Meng Hao, expressionless, flickered forward with incredible speed to appear next to Big Harry. Ignoring Zhou Yi, Meng Hao squatted down and gently petted Big Harry's back. The poison vanished from within him. After a few breaths, Big Harry was completely normal. He rose to his feet and let out yips as he rubbed Meng Hao with his huge head. Nodding, Meng Hao said, "I understand." He pointed with his finger, causing one of the nearby 300-meter-long spiders to instantly explode. He pointed at another. It too exploded. One after another, Meng Hao exterminated 6 of the 300-meter large spiders, the ones who had injured Big Harry. Now they were nothing but ash floating in the wind. "Any more?" asked Meng Hao. Big Harry nodded and let out more yips. Zhou Yi's scalp went numb. He was terrified. "I'm from the 5 Poisons tribe, I." As he began to speak, Meng Hao suddenly looked over at him. Meng Hao stepped forward. In an instant he was before Zhou Yi's meteorite. He reached out and slapped it lightly. A roaring sound filled the air. The meteorite tumbled backward, cracking as it did. Huge fissures covered its surface. Though it didn't break apart, a deep palm print was clearly visible on its surface. "HMPH," said Meng Hao, eyes glittering. Zhou Yi's mind and heart reeled, blood spraying from his mouth. Disbelief and astonishment filled his eyes. This meteorite was a precious Dragoneer treasure. Dragoneers of the Western Desert seem powerful because they control large quantities of neodemons. However, they have a fatal weakness. Dragoneers generally lack a powerful cultivation base. That's why they can be easily killed. Dragoneers in the Western Desert take special care to protect themselves. This meteorite was exactly such a treasure, capable of withstanding blows from early nascent soul stage experts. But Zhou Yi could clearly sense his treasure was cracked. That could only mean one thing. This Grand Dragoneer had a nascent soul cultivation base. The Grand Dragoneers in my tribe are only at the Great Circle of Core formation. Grand Dragoneers with nascent soul cultivation bases are nearly invincible. They're rare in the Western Desert, and their secret Dragoneer arts can summon spirit-severing neodemons. Zhou Yi's whole body shook. He let out a shriek as he pushed his meteorite faster. Clearly, he was fleeing. By this time, the 5 tribe alliance members, including the nascent soul eccentrics, had arrived. Seeing everything made them gasp. They knew Meng Hao was strong and had assumed they could suppress him if necessary. Now their faces fell, hearts filled with foreboding as they realized their inaction had led to the White Wolf and Wild Giant being injured. Before they could think of making up for it, Meng Hao shot forward toward Zhou Yi. His right hand formed a fist that punched out. A boom filled the air as more cracks appeared on the meteorite. "Senior, please spare me. Sir, everything just now was an accident, a misunderstanding." Roars filled the air as Meng Hao punched 3 times in succession. Finally, a splintering sound echoed as the meteorite disintegrated. Zhou Yi was pale-faced and couldn't flee. Meng Hao grabbed him by the neck. He looked back at Big Harry. "Was it this arm?" he asked. Big Harry nodded, letting out more yips as he recalled the humiliation. Meng Hao nodded and grabbed Zhou Yi, who let out a blood-curdling scream as his arm was ripped off and became a haze of blood and gore. His expression unchanged, Meng Hao hovered in midair. About to release Zhou Yi, he suddenly noticed the Wild Giant, Harry too, and others bound and injured within the spider webs. A cold light appeared in his eyes. He suddenly clenched his fist. A cracking sound echoed as Zhou Yi's neck was crushed. His eyes went wide. He was dead. Meng Hao released Zhou Yi and turned to face the nascent soul eccentrics of the 5 tribe alliance. "Well, hello," he said. This chapter was sponsored by Benny Chen. Chapter 436, Good Faith. Even as Meng Hao spoke, he waved his right hand, causing a gale-force wind to sweep across the land. In moments, the wind swept the spider webs off the Wild Giant, Harry too, and the others. The webs became ash. Freed, the Wild Giant lifted its head and roared. In turn, all of Meng Hao's neodemons began roaring. The spiders in the rear mountain district remained prone on the ground, not daring to lift their heads. At this moment, Meng Hao's might billowed to the heavens as he hovered in midair, glaring coldly at the 5 tribe alliance. Facing his power and hearing his words, the great fathers, priests, and grand elders of the 5 tribe alliance felt shaken. Their breathing grew ragged. This Grandmaster Meng's strength vastly exceeded their expectations. Furthermore, they had no idea when he'd acquired so many neodemons. Not only was this group large in number, but they all looked familiar. Upon closer inspection, they were shocked to find these were neodemons from the Crow Divinity Holy Land. "Grandmaster Meng," said the Crow Scout Tribe Greatfather with a wry smile. Before he could finish, Meng Hao pointed toward the ground, causing invisible demonic chi to rise from the earth. The demonic chi caused the surrounding neodemon hordes to roar with greater intensity. The more than 10,000 spiders were no longer suppressed. Instead, Meng Hao's demonic chi exerted incredible attractive force on them. Following the lead of 20 or more 300-meter large spiders, they filled the sky as they flew to Meng Hao, circling him with expressions of submission. Meng Hao floated in midair, surrounded by a mixed neodemon horde nearly 20,000 strong. Their aura billowed to the heavens as they roared ceaselessly. Meng Hao didn't look angry, yet radiated power. His grand dragoneer aura suddenly exploded, causing everything nearby to shake. The Crow Scout tribe Greatfather gasped, unable to continue speaking. The faces of the other nascent soul cultivators fell. Meng Hao was vastly more powerful to them than Zhou Yi had been. "Fellow Taoists," said Meng Hao flatly, "ever since I arrived in your tribe, I've abided by your rules. Never have I offended anyone or violated laws. I don't understand why, when my neo-demons were captured, you not only did nothing, you facilitated it. I require an explanation within 3 days. If I don't get it, my relationship with the 5 tribes of the Crow divinity ends and I leave." With that, he and his 20,000 neo-demon horde whistled through the air as they left. The black mist appeared, billowing into the sky like a hurricane. It was visible from a great distance away as it stretched above. Seeing Meng Hao leave didn't lessen the pressure on the 5 tribes, it grew stronger. The great fathers and priests exchanged glances. Bitter smiles appeared as they conferred using divine sense. They had no desire to offend Meng Hao or cause him to leave. A grand dragoneer with so many high-level neo-demons in a horde of 20,000 was indescribably important to the 5 tribes. Any tribe would place great importance on a grand dragoneer like this. For a tribe to be classified as great, they need a sufficient population, many neo-demons, and a grand dragoneer. The 5 tribes discussed the matter until dawn. Then the nascent soul cultivators went a stand outside the black mist in the rear mountain district. They clasped hands and bowed deeply. "We humbly request an audience with the Grand Dragoneer, Grandmaster Meng." They listened as their voices echoed into the roiling black mist. After a moment, Gu La strolled out, his jaw set with pride and condescension, his hands folded behind his back. The roaring wild giant followed, along with a vast collection of spiders that flew out to surround the Great Fathers, priests, and others. Gigantic spiders became visible, their power comparable to nascent soul cultivation. The red crocodile, emanating viciousness, crawled out. Black crows and green mosquitoes whistled through the air behind. The Great Fathers and priests' faces grew serious. The young master is practicing cultivation. Before entering seclusion, he made clear, if the 5 tribes come without sufficient intention for reconciliation, when he emerges, he'll depart and sever all ties. Gula looked them over, feeling extremely excited and complacent. The feeling far surpassed what he'd gotten from acquiring power on his own. He was quite happy to be Meng Hao's follower. The Crow Scout tribe Greatfather smiled wryly but gave an inward sigh of relief. Their actions yesterday had forced Meng Hao's hand. After exchanging glances with the others, he stepped forward. "First," he said with a slight smile, "we congratulate Grandmaster Meng on recovering his powers as a mighty Grand Dragoneer. Regarding Zhou Yi's slaying, we 5 tribes will stand as witnesses. Furthermore, each tribe offers a congratulatory gift of 2,000 neo-demons, a mix of levels 3 to 7. Gu La's heart began to beat wildly. 2,000 neo-demons wouldn't count for much to a great tribe, but to a small tribe, it was incredible good faith. After all, neo-demons were most important for dragoneers. Dragoneer cultivation wasn't based on personal strength, but controlling neo-demons. For each tribe to give 2,000 meant 10,000 total. Such a vast number caused Gu La to breathe heavily. "Well," said Gu La, hesitating, "Grandmaster Meng is a Grand Dragoneer, and we're honored he chose our 5-tribe alliance. We know the position is esteemed, so each tribe will offer him 300,000 spirit stones to facilitate his cultivation. That's only the first payment. From now on, the 5-tribe alliance will provide an equal sum every 3 months as compensation for his assistance." The Crow Scout tribe Greatfather clasped hands and bowed deeply. He wasn't bowing to Gu La, but toward the churning black mist. Gu La's eyes went wide and he panted nervously. His mind reeled, filled only with thoughts of spirit stones. If each tribe provided 300,000 every 3 months, that was 1,500,000 total. Every month Meng Hao stayed, he'd get 500,000 spirit stones. It was a vast number Gu La could barely imagine. Of course, if not for the imminent danger facing the 5-tribe alliance, they'd never offer such an amount. This matter, Gu La's mouth was dry, and he didn't know what to say. Though he'd prepared to strike with deadly force, he'd never predicted such incredible gifts would be offered without even a threatening pose. "Furthermore," continued the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather, "as Grandmaster Meng is a Grand Dragoneer and vassal of the Crow Scout tribe, we request he assume the position of Grand Elder of the 5-tribe alliance, equal to us Greatfathers." Gu La panted, his mind shaking. A position equal to the great fathers of the 5 tribes was incredibly high and vastly meaningful. Suddenly, the Crow Scout Greatfather spoke again. All resources of the 5 tribes alliance will fulfill Grandmaster Meng's needs. Furthermore, any spoils of war will be split 6 ways, with 1 part belonging to Grandmaster Meng. These words made the roaring in Gu La's head intensify, almost to the point of explosion. This benefit seemed almost unreal, yet it was real and vastly exceeded anything before. This truly was good faith from the 5 tribes alliance, splitting all future spoils with him. At the same time, it would also tightly bind Meng Hao to the 5 tribes. In addition, said the Crow Scout Tribe Greatfather, continuing on with the last item the 5 tribes had agreed to offer, if Grandmaster Meng becomes the Grand Elder, then the 5 tribes agree to provide food for all of his 30,000 neo-demons. Gula didn't know what to say. 30,000 neo-demons could eat a small mountain of beasts in a very short time. That amount of food was no small number, and when you added it all together, could easily drain a small fortune. That was why Grand Dragoneers usually attached themselves to a great tribe. Both benefited from such an arrangement. Gula subconsciously looked back toward the black mist. The great fathers and priests of the 5 tribes also looked toward the black mist, awaiting Meng Hao's response. Lastly, as a show of good faith, if Grandmaster Meng agrees to all of this, and the 5 tribe alliance survives for the next year, then we are willing to allow Grandmaster Meng to be our sole representative to enter the Bridge of Immortal Treading. The person who uttered these words was not the great father of the Crow Scout tribe, but rather that of the Crow Soldier tribe. He was the only of their number to have a cultivation base at the mid-nascent soul stage, and was their most powerful expert. Almost the same moment that he finished speaking, the mist began to seethe and then shrink back. The surrounding neo-demons quickly retreated along with it. In the space of time of a few breaths, the mist had completely vanished, along with neo-demon horde. Now, all eyes were focused completely on the person slowly walking toward them. It was Meng Hao, wearing a long black robe. His hair fluttered in the wind and his eyes were cold. On his skin could be seen a dense, endless amount of totem tattoos. They even existed on his face. Each and every one of these totem tattoos depicted neo-demons. 20,000 neo-demons, all transformed into totem tattoos, branded onto Meng Hao's body. His aura was thoroughly demonic at this point, filled with a barbaric savagery that drifted slowly out from his body. If the people in the southern domain who were familiar with Meng Hao were to see him now, it would be difficult for them to recognize him. As of this moment, anyone who looked at him would take him to be a powerful western desert cultivator. Such power, although it wasn't of the nascent soul stage, was enough to slaughter anyone of the early nascent soul stage. Chapter 437, Bridge of Immortal Treading. The first kindness shown to me by the Crow Scout tribe was the greenwood tree totem, said Meng Hao as he strolled out. His voice contained a certain bizarreness, as if filled with countless beasts roaring in unison. The second was the water of destiny of the Crow divinity tribe, which raised me to the full circle of wood-type power. Within the Holy Land, I encountered the Crow divinity and acquired a metal-type totem tattoo. That was the third kindness. Meng Hao clearly distinguishes between gratitude and grudges in taking action. You tested me out and even allowed enemies to attack me. However, it was all for the safety of your tribe and you had no choice. That I can understand. I don't want your spirit stones. As for your neo-demons, they will definitely be much more powerful if they are under my control. However, if the 5 tribes still exist after the fighting is over, then I will return them to you. Regardless of splitting spoils or anything else, I, Meng Hao, will stand by your sides during this war, fellow Taoists. The reason I shall do so is because of those 3 kindnesses. Therefore, please, no more investigations and no more incidents like that which happened yesterday. Otherwise, I will truly sever the relationship forged through those kindnesses. Having finished, he clasped hands and bowed deeply to the various 5 tribe members. They looked back in stunned silence for a moment, then their faces filled with shame. It was impossible not to realize this had been a warning, not a request for payment. Meng Hao wanted only the proper attitude. I will help you in order to pay a debt of gratitude. The only price I demand is respect. That was what Meng Hao wanted, and also the reason why he had not appeared, but rather sent Gula out to meet them. In addition, Meng Hao continued, I would like to hear more about this bridge of immortal treading that the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather referred to. Meng Hao's body was covered in totem tattoos, and he had the aura of a powerful expert. Having heard his sincere words, the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather slowly said, The Bridge of Immortal Treading is a stretch of ruins. According to legend, there used to be 9 bridges in the great lands of the Western Desert. As for who built them, it is impossible to determine. Some people say that they formed naturally from soil that came from the stars. As for these bridges, they were used for immortal ascension. By treading on 3 of them, you could form an immortal body. By treading on 6 of them, you could form an immortal soul. By treading on 9 of them, you could achieve immortal ascension. Allegedly, these bridges were connected to the stars and were located next to a mountain and a sea. Unfortunately, these bridges met with great tribulation. The heavens were not pleased and destroyed them with lightning. The roaring lasted for 937 years before the bridges finally collapsed and transformed into a world. Later generations called that world the realm of the bridge ruins. Within the realm of the bridge ruins is the wreckage of the Bridge of Immortal Treading. There is also celestial soil which contains immortal chi. To us cultivators, such immortal chi is like a rare tonic, far superior to all medicinal pills. Also available in the realm of the bridge ruins are high-grade spirit stones, to which nothing on the outside can compare. Furthermore, within the wreckage of the Bridge of Immortal Treading that exists in the realm of the bridge ruins, can be found countless celestial magics and divine abilities. There are even creatures which have been extinct in the outside world since ancient times. The realm of the bridge ruins is one of the most precious treasures of the Western Desert. Up to this point, Meng Hao's expression hadn't changed, and he continued to listen calmly. The realm of the bridge ruins opens every 1,000 years. When it does, people from the southern domain, the eastern lands and the northern reaches cannot enter it. Only Western Desert cultivators with totems are capable of entering this world and seizing the good fortune therein. However, not every Western Desert cultivator can enter. According to information in the ancient records, throughout the generations, there have only ever been 23 spots. That is because in ancient times, there were 23 tribes which were officially recognized as great tribes. Though they have long since fallen into decline, their bloodlines still survive. When the time comes for the realm of the bridge ruins to open, an immortality bridgestone will descend to each of those great tribes, which thus allows them to enter. The Crow Divinity Tribe was once one of the approved great tribes of the Western Desert. Therefore, we have always had a spot to be able to enter the realm of the bridge ruins. As long as the blood of our tribe continues to exist, that spot will also be. It is also another reason why the 5 Poisons tribe stirred into action when the Crow Divinity Holy Land collapsed. If they can enslave us, consume our totems, and imprison our tribe members, then they will be able to secure the Crow Divinity Tribe's spot in the realm of the bridge ruins. The Crow Soldier Tribe Greatfather made no attempt to conceal any of the facts. He was telling Meng Hao everything, including secret matters known only to them. As Meng Hao listened to the explanation, his eyes began to shine brightly. He could tell that what the man was saying was most likely true. Furthermore, the mention of celestial soil had definitely sparked his interest. Based on our calculations, there is about 1 year left until the realm of the bridge ruins opens. Before that happens, an immortality bridgestone will fall down to us. If you help us, Grandmaster Meng, then we will deliver that stone to you in 1 year. With that, the Crow Soldier Tribe Greatfather clasped hands and gave Meng Hao a deep bow. Meng Hao was silent for a moment as he pondered the so-called celestial soil. He already had a collection of Black Land's celestial talisman soil. In terms of my 5 elements totems, he thought, I'm currently missing water, fire, and earth. I need them to reach the level in which they manifest an ancient character. Then I can concoct my 5-colored nascent soul. I wonder if the celestial soil in this realm of the bridge ruins could be used for one of my totem tattoos. Meanwhile, if you left the mountain range containing the 5 Crow Divinity tribes and flew about a month's time, you would reach an area that was still considered the Western Desert North region, but was actually nearing its central region. There were no mountains here, only a vast plain called the Blood Wastes. The reason for the name was that the soil of this plain was red in color. Within the red soil grew tens of thousands of varieties of poisonous grasses. During the rainy season, poisonous mists would fill the sky, turning the area into a sort of prohibited zone for cultivators. There were also vast quantities of enormous, poisonous neodemons here, which made this plain somewhat like a pit of poison. It was difficult for cultivators to exist in a place like this. That is, except for the largest of the Western Desert North region's 2 great tribes, the Great 5 Poisons tribe. It was a huge tribe divided into 5 branches, each one named after a different poisonous creature. They were like an enormous black flower with 5 petals. spread out in terrifying fashion over the plain. Each of these branches were equivalent in size to a medium-sized tribe. Together, they formed the Great Five Poisons tribe, whose name rocked the entire western desert north region. They were very different from the five Crow divinity tribes. These five poisons tribes were not fractured. Rather, because of the different totems they possessed, they were organized into five different auxiliary tribes called branches. In the centralmost location in the plain was a sacrificial rites assembly hall, where 15 high priests would make decisions regarding important matters to the five poisons tribe. The branches themselves did not have chieftains, only priests. As far as chieftains went, there was only one in the entire five poisons tribe. In past times, the western desert north regions had three great tribes, the Crow divinity, the five poisons, and the scorching ice. After all these years, the five poisons and scorching ice still existed. In contrast, the Crow divinity was in decline. After having been split into the five subtribes, they were much weaker and reduced to an inferior position. Were it not for the existence of the Crow divinity Holy Land, they would long since have been picked apart, their totemic power stolen, and the tribes themselves forced to become auxiliary branches of other stronger tribes. Unfortunately, the Crow divinity Holy Land had fallen. There was no need for word to be spread about this. Totemic sacred ancients could sense each other. Therefore, the poison patriarchs that the five poisons tribe had worshipped for the past 10,000 years immediately sent their will out to inform members of the tribe that the Crow divinity Holy Land was destroyed. The Crow divinity was dead. Despite that, one of the reasons the five poisons tribe had survived for such a long time was because of their cautious nature. They didn't immediately just go to war, but rather decided to feel out the Crow divinity tribes first. That was why they had dispatched rank 9 Dragoneer Joyi from the Spider Branch. The instant Joyi died, his life soul Jade slipped shattered. The Spider Branch immediately sensed this. Roars of rage filled the air to echo about in all directions. The five poisons tribe immediately called a sacrificial rites assembly. During their meeting, the 15 high priests from the five branches decided to dispatch the Spider Branch to declare war on the five tribes of the Crow divinity. After 3 days, the official resolution was issued, and the entire Spider Branch began to make preparations for war. More than 3,000 totem cultivators, 3 rank 9 Dragoneers, and a vast quantity of neo-demons entered a teleportation portal in the Blood Wastes and headed toward the Crow Divinity Mountains. By using a teleportation portal, they were able to save quite a bit of time. The month-long journey was now reduced to only 7 days. That was how the war began. Of course, this war attracted the attention of other tribes within the western desert north region. Many eyes turned to observe. Wars between tribes were common in the north, but the five tribes of the Crow divinity had once been a great tribe. As such, this particular war was of much more interest than normal. This was especially true when it came to the other great tribe in the area, the Scorching Ice tribe. They were paying very close attention. Were it not for the fact that they were much farther away than the Five Poisons tribe, they too would have participated. Others might have thought such actions would be taken in an effort to grow their own tribe. However, the Scorching Ice tribe knew that the main purpose the Five Poisons tribe had for going to war was for the spot in the realm of the bridge ruins. 7 days later, war loomed over the five tribes of the Crow divinity. On that day, Meng Hao sat cross-legged in his courtyard behind the mountain. In front of him were 3 flickering totems. One was a flame thrush, the other a water drop, the third a stone golem. These totems came from the Crow Flame, Crow Gloom, and Crow Fighter tribes respectively. Comparatively speaking, they didn't match up at all to the greenwood tree that Meng Hao had acquired before, nor were they even comparable to the earliest seed of the metal-type totem that the Golden Crow had given him. That was why Meng Hao was hesitating about whether to fuse with them. The seed would determine what type of transmogrification the totem could manifest later. In making his selections, how could Meng Hao not be careful? After a long moment, his eyes filled with determination. He gathered up the totem seeds and put them away. If he really couldn't get any better totems in the future, then he would have no other choice but to use them. After putting the totem seeds away, his eyes flickered and he lifted his head. He could see that a seething mist was suddenly beginning to spread out through the previously clear and boundless sky. The mist was enormous, covering everything and rapidly approaching as it expanded out. From a distance, it was still possible to see that, shockingly, this boundless mist was actually made up of incomparably fierce spiders. At the same time, a rumbling sound filled the sky, shaking heaven and earth, causing even the mountains to tremble. Any vegetation that the mist touched instantly withered and died. Well, they arrived quickly, thought Meng Hao, his eyes glittering coldly. This chapter was sponsored by Benny Chen. Chapter 438, Zhao Yulan. Almost at the exact same time as the mist neared, 5 beams of light shot out from 5 different directions within the mountain. All of them were different colors. These were none other than the totemic sacred ancients that resided in the tallest peaks of the mountains of the 5 tribes. Simultaneously, 5 protective shields sprang up, covering the entirety of the 5 tribes, cutting them off completely. Next, the members of the 5 tribes unleashed the power of their various totems. Their eyes were bloodshot and filled with vigilance. Clearly, these people were prepared to die for their tribe. The great fathers, priests, and grand elders from the 5 tribes, all of them nascent soul cultivators, emanated intense killing intent. Their faces were grim as they looked out at the churning black mist. It was at this point that the black mist slammed into the protective shield. Booming sounds filled the air, and the ground quaked. The once emerald forests in the areas withered and turned black. Miserable shrieks could be heard from the various beasts that lived in the area. Their bodies began to rot, and they turned into pools of black liquid. It only took a few moments for the entirety of the Crow Divinity Mountains to be filled with a death aura. Suddenly, a sinister voice echoed out from within the churning black mist. 5 tribes of the Crow Divinity, we are the 5 Poisons Clan Spider Branch. You may surrender or die. The voice rolled out in all directions, transforming into a thunderous roar. A powerful domineering will could be sensed within this voice. This was the power of a mid-nascent soul cultivation base. It echoed into the ears of the members of the 5 tribes, causing the blood to drain from the faces of many. Even with the protective shield in place, it still caused blood to ooze out of their mouths. "To the death!" cried the Crow Gloom High Priest. He was a middle-aged man with a look of keen wit shining in his eyes. His words rang out, filled with determination. This was all the answer they needed to provide to the 5 Poisons clan. To the death! All the members of the 5 tribes joined their voices into a powerful roar. To the death! The shocking sound transformed into grim, cold determination. It rose up into the sky and charged into the black mist, and the ears of each and every cultivator of Spider Branch of the 5 Poisons tribe. Among the 3,000 cultivators of the Spider Branch, 20 were grand elders and 1 was a green-robed high priest. All of these people were currently looking at a young woman who was surrounded protectively by more than 10 cold-faced cultivators, all of whom had green totem tattoos on their faces. The woman appeared to be a little more than 20, with long, beautiful hair and a bright red robe. She was beautiful, and her red robe could not hide the voluptuous curves beneath. Her beauty almost seemed demonic. Her eyes were cold and seemed completely ruthless. This ruthlessness was quite a contrast to her beauty, causing her to be even more sexually attractive. On her forehead was a white spider totem tattoo. As it glittered, the spider it depicted almost seemed to be moving. This woman was one of the 5 holy daughters of the great 5 Poisons clan, Zhao Yulan of the Spider Branch. The white spider on her forehead was called Wisdom Spider. Only natural-born holy daughters could acquire it. "Revered priest," she said lightly, "commence with the attack. First, deal with the shield. Call forth the totemic sacred ancient." Just like her name, her voice was like an orchid, beautiful but cold. This particular high priest of the Spider Branch was an old man in a long green robe who held a black, wooden wand in his hand. Having heard Zhao Yulan's words, he nodded and then pointed the wand out. Instantly, the surrounding mist began to roil and then transformed into a gigantic spider that shot toward the shield. A boom filled the air and the shield rippled. However, it did not fall. The high priest frowned and then flashed an incantation with his right hand. The gigantic spider dissipated and then reformed into 5 black spears, each of them 300 meters long. He waved his wand, causing the 5 spears to scream through the air toward the 5 beams of light shooting up from the 5 mountains in the area. "5 tribes totemic sacred ancients, please appear," cried the Crow Gloom tribe priest. A jade slip appeared in his hand, which he crushed. Immediately, roaring sounds could be heard from the 5 mountains. The sacred ancients immediately emerged. The Crow Scout tribes Trint, the Flame Sea of the Crow Flame tribe, as well as the others. However, the instant they appeared, Spider Branch holy daughter Zhao Yulan, behind her ring of guards, looked at the Crow Gloom tribe priest, her phoenix-like eyes glittering. Their gazes locked, and it was clear that both were aware of the identity of the other. These were the 2 in charge of this battle. "Summon the Spider Sacred Ancient." Thunderous roaring sound filled the air as the clouds up above began to roil, and a massive crack appeared in midair. 5 colossal spider legs, each one several thousand meters long, suddenly emerged from within the crack. It was impossible to see what existed past the crack. In any case, as soon as the legs appeared, they shot toward the 5 mountain peaks. In the blink of an eye, massive explosions could be heard as the spell formations cracked. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. All of the totemic sacred ancients of the 5 tribes roared and flew directly up into the sky. Then, up high in the sky, a shocking, bright red spider shot forward to slam into them. "Spider branch battle cultivators," said Zhao Yulan softly. "There's no need for battle formations. Use the totemic demon spider webs to seal this entire area." "The Holy Daughter's commands shall be followed," cried the 3,000 spider branch cultivators, their eyes shining with savagery. They lifted their heads up to the sky and roared as the radiance of their totems exploded out. Immediately, illusory demon spiders appeared, and the air filled with countless strands of silk that flew out in all directions. Hissing sounds filled the air as they shot toward the glowing shield. It seemed these threads also contained poison. "Elders, please join forces to destroy the spell formation," said Zhao Yulan, toying with her hair. "Get the great fathers of these 5 tribes to show their faces. The Holy Daughter's commands shall be followed." Immediately, a dozen or so old men shot out from within the spider branch forces. The totems on their body glowed brightly, exploding with the power of the nascent soul stage. The ripples merged together to form a strange pattern, a spell formation that then shot directly toward the 5 tribes' protective shield. Just as it was about to impact, the Crow Gloom priest's eyes flickered. "Great fathers of the Crow Scout and Crow Flame tribes, please lead the priests and grand elders of the other 3 tribes into battle." Immediately, the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather roared and charged forward. He was followed by more than 10 priests and grand elders, as well as the Crow Flame Greatfather. They shot forth to intercept the incoming cultivators, intent on preventing them from collapsing the protective shield. It was at this point that the Crow Gloom priest suddenly began to bark orders. "Members of the 5 tribes, according to our pre-war strategy, form into 50-man squads. 5 squads will form a company. 5 companies will form a battalion. 1st Battalion will defend the northwest, 2nd Battalion the northeast, 3rd Battalion due north. Slay them with extreme prejudice. Remember, do not fight to the death. If you are injured, return immediately to the area behind the shield for healing. 4th Battalion, 5th Battalion, please rotate in and out of the battle as needed. 6th Battalion, stand guard within the shield. This battle will not be concluded quickly. Tribe members, we fight for the Crow divinity." Immediately, thousands of 5 tribes cultivators shot out of the shield, their eyes bloodshot. "For the Crow divinity," they roared as they charged to meet the incoming 3,000 cultivators from the spider branch. The flames of war instantly raged into the heavens. Magical techniques flared up everywhere. High up in the sky, the 5 totemic sacred ancients were locked in battle with the spider branch's sacred spider. That battle was something that far exceeded the nascent soul stage. Ripples spread out to cover the entire scene, making it impossible for anyone down below to see how the battle was faring. Below them, the nascent soul cultivators were locked in vicious combat. Mist spread out in all directions, making it difficult to see anything other than shadows. However, there was no doubt that the fighting was deadly. Even further below, outside of the shield, thousands of cultivators from both sides had created a rain of blood. To the spider branch, this was a battle to defend their pride as undefeated conquerors. They must win. For the members of the 5 tribes, though, they were fighting for their home and their people. They could not retreat and could not lose. If they did have to die, they would fight to the bitter end. That was because, behind them, beneath the protection of the shield, their fathers, mothers, brothers and sisters, and other relatives were all watching. "Fight to the death for the Crow divinity and for our tribes," fierce cries echoed out. This lowest level of the battle was the fiercest. Blood-curdling screams and blood flew about in all directions. Inside the shield, the rest of the members of the 5 tribes were watching with clenched fists. Children were crying out in fear, and girls were weeping. Mothers' hearts were breaking, and tears rolled down the faces of fathers. Much further outside the shield, within the spider branch forces, Zhao Yulan gave a soft sigh. For a moment she looked disturbed. However, the negative emotions drifted away with her sigh. The right and wrong of war all depended on your perspective. "Dragoneers, you are aware of the mysterious dragoneer described in our top-secret documents, the one who slaughtered Zhou Yi. The time has come to draw him out from within the 5 tribes." Among the spider branch cultivators were 3 dragoneers, located at the back of the battle group. They wore black robes and emanated gruesome auras. Furthermore, all of them were surrounded by various protective items that would shield them from any deadly attacks in battle. Having heard Zhao Yulin's words, the three smiled and flicked their sleeves. Immediately, the roar of neo-demons filled the air and beam after beam of light appeared. Roaring filled the air as a horde of nearly 10,000 neo-demons appeared next to each of these people. When the Crow Gloom tribe priest saw this, his face began to flicker. Something about the rhythm of this battle seemed off, but he really had no other choice at the moment. Turning toward the rear mountain district, he clasped hands and bowed deeply. "Grandmaster Meng, your assistance is requested." Meng Hao was sitting cross-legged in his courtyard, observing the battle. He had seen everything happening in the sky overhead, as well as the storm of blood on the battlefield. It made him think of the Battle of Holy Snow City back in the Black Lands. Then he thought about the Golden Crow and the Great Tree. After a long moment, he sighed. "Because of your kindness, I will do my best to ensure that the tribe you created continues on into the future." Sighing softly, he rose to his feet and walked out of his courtyard. He was followed by the wild giant, who lifted its head to the sky and roared, a bloodthirsty look in its eyes. Battles like these were exactly where wild giants like to be. Zhao Yulan's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Zhao Yulan. Zhao is a surname. Yulan means orchid. Chapter 439, Exotic Heart Devil Flower. Outside of the shield, the three-rank 9 Dragoneers from the Spider Branch began to attack. Vast numbers of neo-demons blotted out the sky and land. There was something very special about these Dragoneers. Their neo-demon hordes all consisted of a single type of neo-demon. One of them possessed a huge flock of vicious gray seabirds that whistled through the air. Bizarrely, each of these birds had 3 claws and the image of a human face on its chest. Astonishingly, another of the Dragoneers was surrounded by multiple giant ants. The largest of these ants were roughly 6 meters long. As for the small ones, there were too many to even count. They looked savage as they swarmed forward, blanketing over everything. The final Dragoneer was an old man with a proud expression on his face. 9 wasp nests floated in the air around him, and he was surrounded by a cloud of poisonous wasps. The shocking sound of their buzz was enough to cause anyone's scalp to go numb. Uniform neo-demon hordes were the standard for orthodox Dragoneers. These were the types of Dragoneers who each benefited from a legacy. Many such legacies had been passed down through various Dragoneer bloodlines for generations. Considering that they could summon vast hordes of uniform neo-demons, it was very easy to see the difference between them and rogue Dragoneers, most of whom had mixed neo-demon hordes. After seeing these 3 Dragoneers appear, Meng Hao's face was calm as he stood atop the wild giant's enormous frame. It howled as it charged forward, instantly attracting the attention of everyone outside of the shield. His appearance immediately caused Zhao Yulin's expression to flicker. She examined Meng Hao closely for a moment and then frowned. At the same time, the 3-rank 9 Dragoneers from the Spider Branch looked over at Meng Hao, then exchanged glittering glances. They all began to flicker incantation gestures, causing several thousand neo-demons from each of their hordes to suddenly shoot directly toward the shield. These 3 groups of 3 different types of neo-demons formed together to make a neo-demon horde nearly 10,000 in number. Their shocking roars lifted up to the heavens as they advanced. Meng Hao gave a cold snort. The howling wild giant suddenly leaped up into the air, shooting out through the shield, its eyes filling with the thirst for blood as it charged toward the incoming neo-demon horde. In midair, Meng Hao's right hand waved, causing the totem tattoos on his right arm to begin to glow. Suddenly, intense light shot out, flickering into a flock of black crows. The instant the black crows appeared, they let out piercing cries. Suddenly, all the corpses on the battlefield began to emanate a pulsing black aura, which was then sucked upward toward the black crows. It was like a black mist that swirled around the crows and then shot toward the incoming neo-demons. Simultaneously, a green light began to flicker around Meng Hao. Big Harry and the rest of the Greenwood Wolfpack appeared, along with the Black Bat. They too shot out in attack. As for the Black Bat, it almost appeared like Meng Hao didn't care about it. In reality, he attached a lot of importance to the creature. It was a neo-demon that had been suppressed by a wooden sword. He was quite certain that the power it was revealing now was not the full extent of what it was capable of. Either it was intentionally holding back, or needed more time to recover from the serious injury. If it was the latter, then that meant it was very weak right now. Even still, its weakness allowed it to employ a cultivation base of roughly level 7. Shocking booms filled the air as the 2 neo-demon hordes slammed into each other. and then dissolved into fierce fighting. Meng Hao himself had attracted quite a bit of attention on the battlefield. Dragoneer battles were large in scope and gave rise to powerful auras. Within the blink of an eye, this Dragoneer showdown had turned into the fourth of the great battles occurring. One of the three spider-branch Dragoneers let out a cold laugh and then said, "You trifling rogue Dragoneer, you killed Zhou Yi by a fluke. Your mixed Neo-Demon horde might have some fantastic Neo-Demons in it, but you don't stand a chance against the three of us." Meng Hao was their only enemy, and their only mission was to draw him out and kill him. Seeing him fighting back against them, the three exchanged another glance, then all began to flash incantation gestures. Immediately, the rest of the Neo-Demons around them lifted their heads up and roared, then charged forward. The impressive sight and the thunderous roaring caused many of the surrounding combatants to suddenly look over to watch this part of the battle. Laughing coldly, the three spider-branch Dragoneers performed more incantations, causing the totems on their bodies to begin to shine. Suddenly, several hundred level 10 Neo-Demons magically appeared in the air around them. In unison, they charged toward Meng Hao. "We will help you to understand the truly crushing power of Dragoneers." Even as the words left their mouths, their Neo-Demon hordes, nearly 30,000 in number, closed in on Meng Hao. It truly seemed as if Meng Hao's own Neo-Demon horde would have difficulty fighting back. They would surely be completely consumed. His face as calm as ever, Meng Hao's cold eyes glanced over the incoming Neo-Demons. With that, he casually shook his arms and legs. Immediately, totemic light began to emanate out from him. Within the glowing light were several thousand howling greenwood wolves, as well as flame thrushes and stone golems. There was also an innumerable group of Neo-Demons whose bodies were surrounded by rippling shields of water. A shocking roar then filled the air as the savage red crocodile crawled out onto the battlefield. Then a shriek could be heard as black mists billowed up. Within the black mist crawled a black lizard that looked like it had just emerged from the yellow springs of the underworld. Its appearance immediately caused the air to vibrate. Next, a droning sound could be heard as the fierce, green demonsquitos appeared around Meng Hao. As one Neo-Demon horde after another appeared, the faces of the three spider-branch Dragoneers instantly fell. At the same time, Meng Hao began to stride forward. As he did, the air around him rippled as 20 of the 300-meter large spiders appeared, along with over 10,000 smaller spiders. They whistled throughout the air, a vast horde of nearly 30,000 Neo-Demons that caused everything to shake. They instantly charged toward the three Dragoneers. As soon as Meng Hao's Neo-Demons slammed into the hordes from the spider branch, miserable cries filled the air. The three Dragoneers' hordes were completely incapable of blocking Meng Hao's. Facing the slaughter and injury, they tried to fall back. Unfortunately for them, Meng Hao's Neo-Demons quickly surrounded them. The three Dragoneers' faces fell and grew ashen. At the same time, Zhao Yulin's eyes went wide and filled with an expression of disbelief. Then her soft voice could once again be heard. "High Priest, it seems that if we wish to kill this man, we will first need to draw out their most powerful expert, the Great Father of the Crow Soldier tribe. Only when he is also present can I execute our plan to completely exterminate these 5 tribes. High Priest, please take action." The Spider Branch High Priest, the old man in the green robe, smiled in response to her words. He waved his wooden wand and then employed minor teleportation. When he reappeared, he was directly in front of Meng Hao. As soon as he arrived, Meng Hao's eyes flickered. Having sensed the man's imminent arrival, Meng Hao was ready. He shot backward, his eyes cold. Back inside the shield, the Crow Gloom Priest could tell that something fishy was going on, but he wasn't sure exactly what. Unfortunately, there was no time to analyze the situation to try to figure out the source of his strange feeling. Gritting his teeth, he said, "Crow Soldier Tribe Greatfather, please intercept that High Priest to buy some time for Grandmaster Meng." Next to him, the Crow Soldier Tribe Greatfather's eyes glimmered with coldness. His body disappeared in a minor teleportation. When he reappeared, he was blocking the Spider Branch High Priest, preventing him from nearing Meng Hao. The two looked at each other and, without a word, instantly employed divine abilities. Booming sounds filled the air as the 5th major encounter began on the battlefield. As for Meng Hao, he also could tell that something strange was going on. He had participated in a similar cultivator war back in the Black Lands. Based on how that war went, it could be said that such wars were usually not finished in a short period of time. Usually, protracted battles went on for days before the situation began to favor one side or the other. Unless one side was clearly in a position of superiority in terms of power, allowing them to crush the other side, then the only option was to try to slowly weaken the other side. However, despite clearly not being in the position to crush the 5 tribes, the spider branch, after not even a single day of battle, was using this strange tactic to try to force the 5 tribes to play their trump cards. It appeared as if the spider branch were going all out, regardless of being assured of victory. Such impulsive attacks must surely be a part of some greater plan. There must be some deadly gambit waiting to be sprung. If I were them, what would be my tactic? Meng Hao controlled the neo-demons surrounding the hordes of the 3 dragoneers and simultaneously glanced around the battlefield. The first thing he took note of was the rippling scene up above. That was where the 5 tribes, sacred ancients, were locked in battle with the fearsome demon spider that was attempting to emerge. It most likely won't involve them. The totemic sacred ancients are not cultivators, but rather powerful neo-demons who can spawn totems. Their battle exceeds my understanding. Frowning, Meng Hao looked at the thousands of battling cultivators, then back at the shield. Finally, he looked up at the battling nascent soul cultivators. Then there's me. I count as one of the major parts of the battle. However, if they wanted to kill me specifically, they would do so with decisiveness. If you look at it that way. Meng Hao's face suddenly flickered. Without hesitation, he shot backward, both hands flickering an incantation. Flickering protective shields immediately appeared around him. Almost at the exact moment that Meng Hao began to retreat, Zhao Yulin's eyes began to glow with a cold light. She took a deep breath as she carefully lifted up her right hand to reveal a wooden box. When she opened the box, a black glow instantly emanated out. At the same time, a tremor ran through Zhao Yulin's body. She bit her tongue with her beautiful teeth and then kneeled down on one knee, holding the box up above her head with both hands. As soon as she lifted the box up, the black glow spread out in shocking fashion. A painful radiance appeared which seemed capable of consuming and replacing all other light. The spider branch cultivators all suddenly produced black, pasty medicinal pills which they then consumed. After they did, their eyes suddenly turned completely black. The cultivators from the 5 tribes suddenly felt something pulling at them, causing them to involuntarily look over. The instant that they did, their hearts all began to tremble. The faces of the tribe members within the shield flickered. They could feel nothing. Only those outside the shield could sense the pulling power of the black glow. However, it was this very fact that made the Crow Gloom Priest's face suddenly go pale white. His voice hoarse, he said, "Exotic heart devil flower." Meng Hao's pupils constricted. However, he was already on guard. A bloody glow surrounded him as he directly employed the Blood Death World to defend against the calling of the black glow. It was at this point that Meng Hao's face flickered. This was because it was at this very moment that the resurrection lily chose to explode out with power. Meng Hao instantly sent his will out to call all of his neo-demons. They immediately began to rush back toward him. This chapter was sponsored by Nidish Markandai, Ajay Savadas, Omar Herrera, Chris Lee, and Lim Derrick. Chapter 440, Tragic. Inside the shield, the Crow Gloom Priest's face went pale and he began to murmur, "Exotic heart devil flower." The 5 Poisons tribe wants to exterminate the 5 Crow divinity tribes so bad they're using the exotic heart devil flower. It must not be looked at. Looking at it causes a heart devil to rise up, which then transforms into a devilish will that burns you away. How could he not understand that he had been defeated from the very beginning? Played and defeated. He had known something was off, but hadn't been able to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Exotic heart devil flowers were rare. During spirit severing, if a cultivator had such a flower, the chances of success were greatly increased, which made it an extremely precious treasure. Furthermore, the flower itself was extremely brutal. Anyone under the spirit severing stage who looked at it would lose virtually all life force and then be burned alive by a devilish will. The end result was always death. In some ways, though, the flower was weak. Although it was difficult for a person to defend against it, the tribe's protective shield was enough to keep its power on the outside. None of the tribe members inside would be affected. However, as soon as the exotic heart devil flower appeared outside, everyone on the battlefield suddenly stopped moving, with the exception of the totemic sacred ancients and the sacred spider. After consuming the special medicinal pill, the spider branch cultivators were temporarily safe from the effects of the flower. However, they were forced to first sit cross-legged in meditation. The members of the 5 tribes, on the other hand, began to scream in pain. Almost immediately, more than 300 members of the 5 tribes began to tremble. Blood oozed from their eyes, nose, and mouth as something like an invisible fire raged in their bodies, withering them up. It took only a moment for their life force to be extinguished, and their bodies transformed into desiccated corpses. In the last moment before death, they let out tragic, blood-curdling shrieks. After that, more and more of the tribe members began to scream and die. It was a massacre. No enemy made a single attack, and yet the ruthlessness of scene exceeded the previous fighting by 100-fold. The members of the 5 tribes within the shield looked out at their fellow tribesmen dying and could only tremble. Their eyes turned bloodshot and they howled in anguish. Unfortunately, they could not charge out to provide aid. As soon as they left the shield, they too would die. Not only would they be incapable of helping their fellow tribe members, but they would be charging to their death. The Grand Elder of the Crow Scout tribe was shaking, and he coughed up blood as his body withered up. Even nascent soul cultivators were incapable of evading. In front of him, he saw a shapeless form, laughing ruthlessly as it sucked away his life force and consumed it. As the members of the 5 tribes died, the black light emanating out from Zhao Yulin's wooden box grew even more intense. It seemed that after consuming enough blood, it was turning violet. Everything was going according to Zhao Yulin's plan. The slaughtering, the attack on the shield, all of it had been a ruse to draw out the powerful experts. Once they were out of the shield, she would exterminate them with the exotic heart devil flower. At the moment, Zhao Yulin's face was pale as she held aloft the exotic heart devil flower. A strange look appeared on her face as she spit out a mouthful of blood. As the blood flew out, it transformed into strands of blood chi, which spread out toward all of the spider branch cultivators who sat cross-legged meditating on the battlefield. "Nascent soul seniors," said Zhao Yulin softly, "I cannot exempt you from the effects of the exotic heart devil flower. However, all other ordinary cultivators, my mouthful of heart devil blood can temporarily allow you to move about freely." With the exception of the nascent soul cultivators, all of the other tribe members whom the blood chi entered suddenly shook. They opened their eyes, and the lucidity therein instantly transformed into savagery. They leaped up roaring and began to slaughter the surrounding 5 tribes members, who were now powerless to fight back. Now the true massacre had begun. Mournful cries instantly could be heard from within the shield. "In 5 Poisons tribe, you are now the arch-nemesis of the Crow Divinity tribe. We two cannot exist under the same sky." The surviving 5 tribes members within the shield were trembling, and their eyes were bloodshot as they felt their hearts tearing apart. They could do nothing but watch on helplessly as the tribe members outside the shield were being slaughtered. The tearing pain within them caused their voices to be filled with indescribable grief. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of 5 tribes cultivators were viciously cut down by the spider branch. As for Meng Hao, he immediately attracted the attention of the spider branch cultivators. However, the vast quantity of neo-demons surrounding him caused them to hesitate. It was at this moment that the 3 dragoneers opened their eyes from meditation. When they saw Meng Hao's current position, they went wild with joy and immediately sent forth all of their neo-demon hordes to slaughter his. It was in this fashion that the cruel spider branch cultivators descended upon Meng Hao. Meng Hao was sitting there meditating, his eyes closed tightly and his body trembling. His 30,000 neo-demons were situated around him on the battlefield. All of them began to roar. The exotic heart devil flower had little effect on them. Therefore, they immediately began to fight back against the enemy cultivators and neo-demons. Instantly, booming sounds filled the air, although Meng Hao was incapable of paying any attention to it. At the moment, his body was shaking as the resurrection lily unleashed all of its power against him in its attempt to take over his body. In return, Meng Hao was using all the strength he could muster to suppress it. The inward struggle raged on. By this point, 80 to 90% of the 5 tribes' cultivators had been massacred. Blood soaked the ground, which was littered with corpses. The reek of blood rose up into the sky. The 5 tribes within the shield felt their hatred for the 5 Poisons tribe growing to an indescribable level. It was at this point that the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather coughed up a mouthful of blood. He laughed bitterly as his body withered up. Facing up against an exotic heart devil flower without making advanced preparations, even nascent soul cultivators would find it difficult to resist it. They wouldn't even be able to self-detonate. They could only stand there and be consumed by the flower. In the moment before he died, the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather bit the tip of his tongue. A green light began to shine out from all of the totems on his body. Fatally damaging his own body and spirit, he sent some of his life force shooting back toward the Crow Scout tribe priest. "We can't all perish here," cried the Greatfather. He continued to laugh bitterly as his body withered up completely. He was unable to extricate himself, but what he was able to do was impart some of his boundless life force to his fellow tribe member. The stream of life force entered the person behind him. Unfortunately, he was not able to extricate himself from the power of the exotic heart devil flower either. Merging his own life force with that of the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather, he sent it out to the next person. And so it went on. The Crow Flame Greatfather, priest and grand elder and other nascent soul cultivators outside of the shield all perished, more than 10 in total. They died laughing bitterly and hearts filled with rancor. Before withering away in death, the last person in line took all of the combined life force and passed it on to the most powerful expert of the 5 tribes, the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather. The life force fused into the body of the gray-haired Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather, who was currently fighting back against the exotic Heart Devil flower. It was a final gift from his fellow tribesmen upon their death. Within the life force was also their combined hatred of the 5 Poisons tribe. It combined together to form one word: revenge. The Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather lifted his head to the sky and roared. His eyes were completely bloodshot, but at this moment the power of restoration flowed through him. He shook off the glow of the exotic Heart Devil flower. Coughing up a mouthful of blood, he unhesitatingly fell back at top speed. Even as the power of the flower once again attempted to envelop him, he shot back through the shield, and then immediately sat down cross-legged to heal himself. His expression was one of extreme malevolence, but in fact, his heart felt as if it were breaking. Beneath the dim light cast out by the exotic Heart Devil flower, all of the 5 tribes members had perished except for Meng Hao. The tragic turn of events caused the hearts of the tribe members inside the shield to fill with thoughts of despair. The shadow of genocide loomed over them, and they began to weep. As of now, the 5 tribes only had 7 nascent soul cultivators left inside the shield. They immediately went to stand guard around the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather. They said nothing, but within their bitterness, hatred boiled up into the sky. The Crow Gloom tribe priest laughed woefully and then muttered to himself, defeated, thoroughly defeated. Back outside the shield, Zhao Yulin opened her eyes and looked out at the blood-soaked, corpse-filled battlefield. When she saw that the Crow Soldier Greatfather had escaped with his life, she let out a soft sigh. A sliver of pity appeared in her eyes, but she quickly shook her head and it disappeared. Then her phoenix-like eyes fell upon Meng Hao, who was still sitting cross-legged in meditation. Spider Branch cultivators, hold nothing back. Cooperate with our 3 esteemed Dragoneers to slaughter the 5 tribes, Dragoneer. In response to her words, the more than 3,000 Spider Branch cultivators shot toward Meng Hao. As for the Grand Elders and High Priest, they simply sat there with legs crossed. Considering their status, they completely ignored Meng Hao and instead looked with glittering eyes at the 5 tribes' protective shield. Seniors, said Zhao Yulin in her soft voice, please exert full power to destroy the shield. We will allow the glow of the exotic Heart Devil flower to shine inside, whereupon today's battle shall be concluded. The Spider Branch has suffered few losses and secured victory. My trial by fire is over and the tribe can be notified. Booms filled the air as the powerful experts of the Spider Branch, including the High Priest, leveled attacks against the shield. Meng Hao's Neo-Demons fought fiercely against the 3 Dragoneers and the rest of the 3,000 cultivators who surrounded them. The injuries they were sustaining grew more severe, and the tide was turning against them. Without Meng Hao and his demonic chi, their battle prowess was significantly lessened. The 5 tribes' shield was rumbling and showing signs of breaking. At this point, Big Harry let out a sad howl and coughed up some blood. Just when it seemed everything was going to go wrong, Meng Hao's eyes suddenly opened. They were completely bloodshot and radiated intense killing intent. Despite the Resurrection Lily's fierce struggles, Meng Hao had once again managed to suppress it. Chapter 441, Execution. As soon as Meng Hao suppressed the Resurrection Lily, the exotic Heart Devil flower no longer affected him. Perhaps the Resurrection Lily itself was responsible, though it was impossible to say for certain. The instant Meng Hao opened his eyes, his Neo-Demons let out powerful roars. The 3 Dragoneers' eyes narrowed, and the 3,000 surrounding cultivators trembled, yet they continued their relentless assault. Meng Hao looked around thoughtfully. He saw the thousands of corpses of the 5 tribes' members, and also noted that the shield was about to collapse. Of his original group of 30,000 Neo-Demons, more than half were dead. Seeing the corpses filled his heart with the same grief that gripped the 5 tribes. With the battle at this point I should leave, he murmured. However, I have no desire to flee today. He lifted his right hand and pushed down onto the ground. Demonic chi, art of righteous bestowal. Endless demonic chi erupted outward in all directions. He waved his hand, causing the invisible chi to fuse with the more than 10,000 neo-demons that remained. The neo-demons' bodies all began to tremble. The demonskitos swelled to several times their original size and emitted a shocking aura. In addition to emanating demonic chi, an aura of transmogrification appeared. Under this aura, the demonskitos grew an extra pair of wings. Their tails sprouted green spikes. The sight was incredibly fearsome. As for the black crows, they trembled, emitting fierce cries. They glowed with black light as their auras intensified. Not only did their bodies grow larger, but ghost images formed around the demon crows, creating mirror images behind each one. This ghost image was a transmogrification effect, a form of evolution. With it, each crow possessed two life forces. Big Harry howled into the sky as his body grew to 300 meters. His demonic chi surged, and more than just size increased. His blood pumped harder as the image of a moon appeared above his head. Beneath its light, his white coat turned silver. He was now a silver wolf. As for the spiders, they let out fierce cries as their bodies grew more powerful and savage. Human faces materialized on their rear bodies. Their fangs grew even longer, resembling giant pincers. The red crocodile's scales enlarged, its head reshaping to resemble a dragon. As its back bulged, two wings sprouted. It flew into the air, no longer a crocodile, but something like a red flying rain dragon. It lacked a flying rain dragon's exact form, but its aura was nearly identical. Roaring, the lizard's body grew to mountain size. Black smoke poured from its mouth as flames gathered in its belly. It looked completely transformed, its aura vastly more powerful. The wild giant roared, its body growing bulkier. It raised its hand, and shockingly, lightning descended from the sky. As the wild giant grabbed it, it transformed into a lightning whip. All of the neo-demons experienced transmogrification. Such changes had occurred only rarely in the western desert since ancient times. Such simultaneous transmogrifications were unprecedented. The scene shook the three Dragoneers' neo-demons. Fear filled their eyes and they dared not advance. The 3,000 spider branch cultivators' minds buzzed. Seeing more than 10,000 neo-demons transform into a mutated horde filled them with incredible fear. Zhao Yulin's eyes widened with a bright glow. Meng Hao's sudden explosion of power shocked her. It wasn't just her. The Spider Branch High Priest and Grand Elders attacking the shield looked back. When they saw Meng Hao and his neo-demons, they trembled. The three Dragoneers' faces filled with disbelief as they began to pant. Shock filled them, and they gave out hoarse cries of alarm. Grand Dragoneer. He's a Grand Dragoneer. Only Grand Dragoneers could wield such a fearsome secret Dragoneer art. Meng Hao's eyes swept over them and their faces went deathly pale. Scalps numb, they retreated at top speed. As they fell back, Meng Hao's neo-demons roared and fell upon the cultivators and neo-demons surrounding them. Amidst the thunderous roaring, Meng Hao used a bloodburst flash. His body seemed to disappear. As it did, all between him and the nearest Dragoneer exploded into a cloud of blood and flesh. Meng Hao reappeared directly in front of the Dragoneer. The sheer speed was shocking. Not a teleportation, but an explosive burst of speed, leaving a path of destruction and death. The Dragoneer's face fell and his mind buzzed. He was about to shoot back when Meng Hao's hand snapped out, clamping onto his throat. A cracking sound rang out as Meng Hao, expressionless, crushed the man's neck. When he dropped the Dragoneer, a thorn-covered vine snaked out from the wild giant. In one gulp, it swallowed the Dragoneer's body. The ferocious vine spun around Meng Hao, forming a gigantic thorn sphere that swept outward. This kill shook the entire battlefield. Two Spider Branch Nascent Soul Elders' expressions flickered. Without hesitation, they teleported to reappear near Meng Hao. The instant they reappeared, Demonskitos screamed through the air to defend Meng Hao. The two Nascent Soul Elders attacked together, instantly defeating the Demonskitos. However, a bloody glow now surrounded Meng Hao and bloodburst flashed again. He appeared next to the second fleeing Dragoneer. He waved his hand, causing golden light to surge forward. The man screamed as the golden light surrounded his body. Moments later, the light faded, revealing the man completely turned to gold. He fell slowly from the sky. The last Dragoneer, an old man terrified by Meng Hao's unprecedented ferocity, trembled violently. "Save me," he cried, darting toward Zhao Yulin. "What incredible guts," cried one of the two Nascent Soul cultivators. Meng Hao's slaying of another rank 9 Dragoneer before them filled them with fury. Their bodies flickered as they shot toward Meng Hao again, their killing intent billowing. They unleashed divine abilities even as they neared him. "My guts are actually pretty ordinary," said Meng Hao lightly. As the nascent soul elders neared, he pointed toward them. The eighth demon sealing hex erupted. Invisible strands of demonic chi shot toward them, binding them. The two nascent soul experts' faces fell. Though they'd soon break free, their moment of shock let Meng Hao use Bloodburst Flash again. A bloody glow surrounded him as he shot toward the final Dragoneer. "How dare you!" cried another nascent soul elder. He teleported from the shield, appearing next to the old Dragoneer. Roaring, he performed an incantation gesture, causing a colorful glow to spread toward Meng Hao. "No one can save someone that I want to kill," said Meng Hao calmly. Without hesitation, he clenched his fist and struck toward the nascent soul expert. A boom filled the air. Meng Hao's body trembled and he fell back 3 paces. The nascent soul expert's expression darkened as blood sprayed from his mouth. He fell back 7 or 8 paces, disbelief in his eyes. He watched in shock as Meng Hao approached the Dragoneer. Before the Dragoneer could react, Meng Hao grabbed his neck and crushed it. Completely surrounded by an army of thousands, Meng Hao slaughtered 3 Dragoneers. Not even 3 nascent soul elders could stop him. 1 Dragoneer had been slain directly before a nascent soul elder. This scene shocked everyone, spider branch cultivators and 5 tribes members alike within the shield. Their blood began to boil as despair turned into hope. "Grandmaster Meng! Grandmaster Meng!" Cries rang out from within the shield, charged with the hope and excitement of the surviving 5 tribes members. Zhao Yulan panted as she looked at Meng Hao. His actions exceeded her expectations, and he had become a critical factor in the battle. Grand Dragoneer, one who can directly shake a nascent soul cultivator. This man has to die. Even as her eyes gleamed with killing intent, grave danger filled her heart. That was because she had just seen Meng Hao's eyes. In this moment, Meng Hao's gaze swept the battlefield, crossing the gulf created between him and her by 3,000 cultivators. His gaze was filled with killing intent, directed at her. "He wants to kill me." Those 3 Dragoneers were too close to him, making them easy targets. "He's much too far away from me, plus there are 3,000 cultivators between us. I have more than 10 bodyguards plus the High Priest and the Elders. How exactly does he plan to kill me?" This chapter was sponsored by Frank Contreras. Chapter 442. A figure leaping, sailing over 3,000 cultivators. "There's no need to even think about it," continued Zhao Yulan. "With a barrier of 3,000 cultivators, he'll get tangled up before he can even get close to me. Unless he can perform minor teleportation, it won't do him any good. Even relying on that blood chi art won't get him across such a distance. Flying would require incredible speed to break through 3,000 cultivators. I've seen his speed, it's insufficient." It was at this moment Zhao Yulan saw Meng Hao look up and cry out. In response, the wild giant rushed forward. Its muscles swelled as its body grew to 300 meters. The muscles on its right arm began to writhe, as if all the blood in its body was being collected there. The arm grew grotesquely, comprising more than half of the wild giant's body. The arm was completely out of proportion. Blue veins bulged along its surface, and it nearly burst. Terrifying power filled it. The wild giant snatched Meng Hao and hurled him toward Zhao Yulan. The wild giant's fearsome power transferred to Meng Hao, shooting him through the air like lightning. The power bolstered his speed as he ripped through the air like a blazing sun. A cloud of demonsquitos circled around him, transforming into a vortex. Black crows converged, turning into a mist. The red crocodile converged, becoming a giant wing. The lizard transformed into a body, and the black bat became a wing. His speed increased explosively as the Neo-Demon horde pushed him forward. A shocking roar spread outward as Meng Hao shot through the sky surrounded by his vast Neo-Demon horde. He sailed over the 3,000 cultivators who stared up, too shocked to react. Meng Hao's Neo-Demon horde transformed into a long, sharp arrow, with Meng Hao as the arrowhead. They shot forward, emanating fierce killing intent. With explosive speed, they shot through the sky toward Zhao Yulan, seemingly capable of ripping open the heavens. In this moment, the 5 tribes members within the shield couldn't breathe. The Crow Soldier Tribe Greatfather, now recovered, stared with wide eyes. The other 7 nascent soul cultivators panted. 3,000 spider branch cultivators watched with red eyes, shocked. The nascent soul elders and high priest expressions completely changed. Zhao Yulan's phoenix-like eyes widened as she panted, staring at Meng Hao. In this moment his figure burned into her eyes, mind, and heart. A figure leaping, sailing over 3,000 cultivators. A demonic arrow shooting directly toward Zhao Yulin. His incredible speed reduced the distance between them from over 1,000 meters to less than 300. The green-tattooed cultivators surrounding Zhao Yulin braced themselves. Their eyes blazed with killing intent. Zhao Yulin held the exotic heart devil flower above her head. As she stared at Meng Hao, her expression grew calm and her eyes grew cold. She couldn't move. If she did, the flower's power would dissipate, and the 5 tribes' cultivators would charge out. With the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather, that would be 8 nascent soul cultivators, more than enough to entangle the spider branch elders. That would put them in grave danger. He won't make it, Zhao Yulin thought decisively. The rest of the spider branch elders abandoned their assault on the shield. More important was their branch's holy daughter. 3 of the 9 elders teleported toward Meng Hao, their bodies exploding with power. The other 6 flew forward without hesitation. The 3 elders appeared next to Meng Hao. They performed incantation gestures, causing totemic light to spring from their bodies. It transformed into a massive figure that shot toward him. "Back off you," the 3 roared like thunder. "Screw off," replied Meng Hao, howling with all his neo-demons. The sound shook the heavens and pressed down on the 3. The black crows, demon-mosquitoes, and red crocodile changed direction and shot toward them. Amidst the thunderous roaring, Meng Hao continued onward without pausing. The neo-demon horde obstructed the 3 cultivators, letting Meng Hao pass. It was now only about 200 meters from Zhao Yulin. The other 6 nascent soul elders roared as they appeared near Meng Hao. They unleashed the full power of their cultivation bases, manifesting totemic divine abilities. Their combined power formed an enormous golden bell that shot toward Meng Hao. Massive pressure and an ear-splitting rumble filled the air. Meng Hao's eyes glittered as he waved his hands. Big Harry, the gigantic lizard, and all the neo-demons shot toward the golden bell. From a distance, the neo-demon horde transformed into a black wind that swept from his body. Now Meng Hao was visible in midair. Without hesitation, he raised his hand, revealing a blood-colored mask. He slipped it on and blood chi exploded from his body with a rumble. It shot outward, shocking all the onlookers. The blood chi billowed into an enormous red vortex, with Meng Hao at its center flashing an incantation gesture. The spinning vortex changed into a face. It shot out from behind the neo-demon horde toward the golden bell and the 6 elders. A massive boom shook everything. The neo-demon horde scattered and the golden bell shattered. The 6 turned pale with astonishment as they retreated. Meng Hao spat blood from his mouth as his speed increased. His bloodburst flashed, appearing 100 meters from Zhao Yulin. They could see each other clearly, even the threads in their clothing. Zhao Yulin's expression didn't change, her eyes cold. Even Meng Hao had to admire such composure. His killing intent thickened as he flickered toward her. The 10-plus green-tattooed cultivators shot forward as green light charging toward Meng Hao. Zhao Yulin's expression didn't change as she looked at Meng Hao approaching. She saw his mask, his green robe rippling in the wind and his white hair whipping. Her eyes were like deep, still waters, cold as ice. Surrounded by an army of thousands, he had come alone. 9 nascent soul elders couldn't hinder him. The image of such a person would forever be imprinted in her heart. Zhao Yulin had calculated every possibility of this great tribal battle. The only thing she hadn't calculated was Meng Hao. Meng Hao raised a fist and slammed it into the chest of one green-faced cultivator. His cultivation base was immediately suppressed. He was thrown backward, slamming into the person behind him. Both exploded into blood and gore. Meng Hao flickered and reappeared behind another cultivator. He flashed an incantation gesture as bones crunched. A golden light appeared, and 3 transformed into golden statues. Efficient, clean extermination. He took a breath and increased his speed, passing through the surviving 5 as he closed in on Zhao Yulin. The surviving green-faced cultivators roared in determination and opted to self-detonate. 5 core formation cultivators exploded with massive power. His expression didn't change. Even as the power swept toward him, threads of silk appeared around him. This was eyeless larva silk. The silk whistled through the air, surrounding Meng Hao. Indestructible, he sustained no injuries. He shot onward like lightning, bursting out from the explosions. He was now only 30 meters from Zhao Yulin. Everyone in the area was astonished. A tall figure suddenly appeared in front of him. A green boulder-like form stepped from the void, wand pointed toward Meng Hao. "Begone," spoke the high priest of the spider branch, his voice archaic and booming. He glared at Meng Hao, gripping a wand with power sufficient to crush mountains. Meng Hao couldn't dodge as the wand's power slammed into the eyeless larva silk. His eyes flickered as the 9 elders shook off the neo-demon horde and closed in. Zhao Yulin heaved a sigh of relief at the high priest's appearance. Meng Hao reaching within 30 meters had filled her with unprecedented crisis. A boom filled the air and Meng Hao's body trembled as the eyeless larva silk fought the high priest's mid-nascent soul power. Blood seeped from his mouth as he retreated several paces. However, that was all. Blood and a few steps back in the face of the high priest's full power. The spider branch high priest's pupils constricted. Just what magical item is that? Well, it doesn't matter how powerful your magical item is. If you think you can get past me, you're dreaming. Chapter 443, Soul Stirring. Mid-nascent soul stage, thought Meng Hao, eyes narrowing. Of the cultivators he'd battled, the strongest was eccentric Li Tian, only peak early nascent soul stage. A vast difference separated that from mid-nascent soul. The difference between nascent soul levels far exceeded that of foundation establishment or core formation stages. With 2 totems and the blood-colored mask, Meng Hao could slay early nascent soul cultivators. Battling mid-nascent soul would be difficult. Yet he'd chosen to attack Zhao Yulin. Surely he'd anticipated the high priest's interference. As he backed up, his hands flickered in incantation gestures, then he pointed forward. "Eyeless larva," he said coldly. The eyeless larva silk surrounding him opened and the creature itself appeared. It shot toward the high priest, massive amounts of silk wrapping around him, entangling him. "You're right, I can't beat mid-nascent soul stage," said Meng Hao coolly. "But I can tie you up." The high priest frowned, preparing to teleport. Meng Hao waved his hand. 8th demon sealing hex. Demonic chi rumbled toward the high priest, covering everything. Though he could shake it off quickly, the delay let the eyeless larva wrap him in layer after layer of silk, nearly covering him completely. The high priest's divine abilities boomed outward, but the eyeless larva's indestructible silk whipped faster and faster, completely covering him. Meng Hao coughed blood, the 8th demon sealing hex backfiring from exceeding his cultivation base. But he ignored it, shooting past the high priest as the 9 elders closed from behind. He directly approached Zhao Yulin. Zhao Yulin's face finally flickered as she panted. With Meng Hao almost upon her, she moved, shooting backward. She kept the exotic heart devil flower above her head, emitting its blooming power. She knew she couldn't let the glow fade, death would follow. Danger seemed imminent, but she had only to hold a few breaths. Once the 9 elders caught up, the situation would be resolved. As she retreated, she spoke the words of a bizarre spell. The air distorted into ripples spreading outward. A dozen images of her appeared before Meng Hao, nearly indistinguishable. Meng Hao snorted coldly. Without pausing, he lifted his right hand. Golden light erupted from the metal-type tattoo on his chest, turning his entire hand gold. He pointed toward the ripples, sending out a golden will that infected them. The golden color rapidly spread to the dozen retreating images. Each time the gold covered a figure, it shattered. The figures vanished in a blink. The distorted ripples popped like a bubble, revealing a shocked Zhao Yulin coughing blood. Meng Hao flickered forward, now only 10 meters from her. The pressure and death aura were greater than anything she'd experienced. Her face paled, lips quivering. Suddenly, a white glow emanated from her, transforming into a protective shield. Meng Hao snorted and unleashed a punch. A massive boom shattered the white shield into fragments. Pieces slashed across Zhao Yulin's body, leaving bloody cuts. As the shield shattered, more blood sprayed from her mouth, yet she held the exotic heart devil flower high. As Meng Hao closed in, she flicked an incantation. Her phoenix-like eyes filled with killing intent as the white spider totem tattoo on her forehead glowed white. A spider appeared and emitted a shrill call, transforming into a raging wind that swept across everything. Meng Hao's body trembled as his soul nearly tore free. But it took only a moment to suppress the feeling. Capable of suppressing the resurrection lily, some soul extermination wind meant nothing to him. Had he not dealt with the resurrection lily before, or if a higher cultivation base wielded this wind, his soul would have been absorbed, leaving him in a trance. Yet the various factors at play rendered this totemic divine ability, which only a spider branch holy daughter could master, powerless against Meng Hao. He flicked his sleeve, manifesting wood-type totemic power. A green glow shot toward the white spider, slamming into it. The spider let out a miserable shriek and turned into a white beam returning to her forehead. Zhao Yulin coughed blood. For the first time, despair filled her eyes. It quickly vanished. She bit her tongue, spitting blood. The blood emanated a thick gore odor. Zhao Yulin suddenly looked older, watching listlessly as a bloody aura rose into the sky. Meng Hao suddenly felt intense crisis. The 9 elders howled, beginning to teleport toward him, then stopped abruptly. But at that moment, a huge roar came from the sacred ancients battling the holy spider above. An enormous black shadow descended toward Meng Hao. It was a spider leg. It moved with incredible speed. Meng Hao sensed grave danger as everything shook. An aura of death filled the area 1,500 meters in every direction. At that moment, Zhao Yulin seized her chance. Using the power of her spilled blood, she rapidly increased her speed, retreating so fast she'd escape the danger zone in a blink. Her body blurred as if being stretched. Meng Hao faced 2 choices: abandon his pursuit and dodge the holy spider's attack, or continue trying to kill her. The situation was urgent. Meng Hao's eyes gleamed coldly as he shot forward. He grabbed Zhao Yulin's slender arm holding the exotic heart devil flower. Her arm was graceful and smooth, but ice cold to the touch. Killing intent glittered in his eyes. "Get back here," he said, wrenching her arm violently while flooding it with power strong enough to crush cultivation bases. Above, dark clouds filled the sky as the holy spider's leg descended like a giant sickle. It moved with incredible speed, cutting open the very air. Zhao Yulin's face flickered. This was critical. Her eyes filled with vicious determination. She lifted her left hand, revealing a flying sword. Knowing she couldn't match Meng Hao, she didn't target him but her own arm he was holding. It was numb, filled with terrifying power that threatened her entire being. The sword fell and blood sprayed. As Meng Hao's exterminating power erupted, she made the difficult decision to sever her own right arm. Her body shot away at incredible speed. Soon she was 1,500 meters away, coughing up blood. Her face was pale, flesh contracting around the severed stump. Her aura was weak, cultivation base declining. This was her most severe injury ever. She'd narrowly escaped death. Her hair was in disarray, her entire person in poor straits. Pain twisted her beauty almost to unconsciousness. She lifted her head and glared at Meng Hao, body shaking. "I will pay you back 10 times over for this." The 9 elders teleported next to her, protecting her retreat. All stared at Meng Hao with intense killing intent. Meng Hao's eyes flickered. He knew killing her was now unlikely. Her determination impressed him deeply. He'd rarely encountered such decisiveness at a critical moment. Had she hesitated even a moment longer or reacted slower, death would have been her only choice. Meng Hao narrowed his eyes, gesturing for Zhao Yulin's severed arm to fly over. With her high position in the 5 Poisons tribe, he could benefit from studying the totemic power within it. Enmity now existed between them. He'd need to figure out how to kill not just her but her entire tribe. In the cultivation world, the law of the jungle prevails. When fighting heaven and earth, soft-heartedness gets you nowhere. Without hesitation, he collected the box containing the exotic heart devil flower along with the severed arm. He closed it immediately, ceasing the glow. This instantly affected the entire battlefield. He put the precious treasure into his bag of holding. Such treasures were rare. As a grandmaster of the Tao of alchemy, studying it would bring significant progress. Perhaps he could even concoct pills with similar properties. He wouldn't pass up such an opportunity. Meng Hao looked up at the gigantic black shadow descending and pointed toward the bound high priest. The eyeless larva silk suddenly dissipated, revealing the shocked high priest. He tried virtually everything but couldn't even mark the silk. The silk rapidly shot back to Meng Hao, wrapping around him. He stood with hands clasped behind his back as the black shadow loomed. He flicked his sleeve, eyes cold. "My eyeless larva can stand up to tribulation lightning. Does your demon spider's cultivation base measure up?" This chapter was sponsored by Joseph Pelletier, Gabriel Lernarak, Turho Jocko Rukala, William Karen, Jesper Hansen, Abdulrahman Morin, and LBD. Chapter 444, Funeral Dirge. The sky filled with black clouds as an enormous spider leg descended on the 1,500-meter area. The ground trembled as massive pressure bore down. All life forms within the area were incapable of evasion, everything crushed to ash beneath the shocking power. "He'll die for sure," thought Zhao Yulin, surrounded by the 9 elders. Her face was completely white. Suddenly she frowned. The pain of her severed arm caused the frown. It paled her face and affected her mentally. She struggled to ignore the pain and focus on analyzing Meng Hao. "That silk binds the high priest, it's powerful. His hope rests on it and he knows its power. He's likely not going to die. His cultivation base is profound. He's clever as a fox and extremely decisive. He's calculating and vicious. As a grand dragoneer, any tribe should fear him, Zhao Yulin sighed. Had she known the 5 tribes had someone as powerful as Grandmaster Meng, she would have adjusted her plans. Actually, it doesn't matter. The blood I spat will notify the tribe my trial failed. Main forces will arrive soon. As she mused, the spider leg arrived, slamming into the silk cocoon surrounding Meng Hao. From a distance, it looked like an enormous black sickle. When it was 10 meters from him, the eyeless larva silk obstructed it. A massive boom echoed out as a shockwave swept across everything. A massive wind kicked up, battering surrounding cultivators and forcing them back. Meng Hao's body trembled as he coughed blood. The black sickle pushed down from the 10-meter position, slowly nearing him. Despite its slowness, it emanated intense, destructive pressure. His body trembled. 4 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter, half a meter. Meng Hao looked up at the approaching sickle, eyes radiating coldness. Though his body shook compared to heavenly tribulation pressure, it was too weak, he said coolly. The sickle now was only 3 inches from his head. That 3-inch gap was unbridgeable. The eyeless larva silk was wrapped too tightly. Nothing in heaven or earth could destroy it. The sickle couldn't break it. Soon it began to tremble. In a blink, all its power was gone, transforming to ash 3 inches from Meng Hao. A howl drifted from above. Everything grew dim as clouds seethed. A gigantic spider with sickle-like legs appeared, ripped from the void by the 5 tribes' roaring sacred ancients pestering it, preventing further descent. The instant the black sickle disappeared, the 5 tribes' members within the shield roared. 7 nascent soul cultivators and all surviving tribe members. The archaic crow soldier tribe greatfather, burning with combined revenge from 10 fellow nascent souls, lifted his head, eyes bloodshot, and roared. Revenge! All 5 tribes members screamed with rage and sadness. Revenge! Revenge! Led by the greatfather, the tribe members charged out from behind the shield. Their world was ruled by revenge as they charged toward the 3,000 spider branch cultivators. Their bodies exploded with madness. They would ruin the spider branch even if it meant death. A moment later, close-quarter fighting began. The deaths of the 3 dragoneers had dealt a blow to spider branch morale. Meng Hao's intrepidness left a deep impression. He'd slaughtered through thousands, then soared above the crowds pursuing the holy daughter. 9 nascent soul cultivators couldn't stop him. The high priest was captured. Their lofty holy daughter's face filled with despair, her arm severed, fleeing in panic. This was a huge blow to the spider branch. Meng Hao wasn't simply burned into their minds, he was indelibly fused there. Even the fearsome holy spider attack, which they assumed would surely destroy him, did nothing. The holy spider couldn't exterminate him. Now Meng Hao was a nightmare to them, an unbeatable, invincible nightmare. Now when their confidence was lowest, the 5 tribes fought back with full force. Hatred and killing intent boiled to the sky. Earlier, they'd watched as fellow tribe members, children, parents, relatives were slaughtered. The survivors' eyes were bloodshot on the verge of tears. Within that redness lived fury. The time for revenge had arrived. When the sides slammed together, there was no leadership or tricks, just mutual slaughter. A boom filled the air. One 5 tribes member slaughtered an enemy but was mortally wounded. Laughing madly, he chose to self-detonate. As his body exploded, a vicious smile twisted his face. He'd kill 3 enemies in front of him. Booms continued. One 5 tribes member after another at their final moment chose self-detonation. Their message to the spider branch: witness the staunch vengeance of the 5 tribes of the crow divinity. One 5 tribes member lost his legs and arm. Even his dantian was damaged beyond repair. He couldn't self-detonate. But he had teeth. Soon his entire body was destroyed, yet his teeth clenched viciously into the enemy's throat. Mutual destruction was achieved. In a short period, the spider branch lost over 100 members. The vicious scene, the explosive madness of 5 tribes members seeking revenge despite death, thoroughly shook spider branch hearts. They were scared witless, panting. The 5 tribes' savagery filled them with cowardice. They retreated. Off in the distance, the 9 elders watched with wide eyes. They too were moved, but before they could think, the 7 nascent soul cultivators from the 5 tribes shot toward them. The high priests, the greatfather of the crow soldier tribe, and the others all had eyes filled with blood as they whistled through the air. This was truly a war between 2 tribes. It was different than the killing before. This was a deadly massacre. Meng Hao looked around at everything that was happening. He saw the 5 tribes rise up and saw their determination to exact vengeance. It was at this time that an undulating sound could be heard. This was not the sound of war bugles, but rather the voices of all members of the 5 tribes who had stayed behind within the protection of the shield. There were less than 1,000 of them, but their voices joined together and drifted out onto the battlefield. Most of this group of nearly 1,000 people were children. The rest were the elderly. The majority of them did not have cultivation bases. They were simple, ordinary tribe members. However, considering all the sacrifices that had been made by the 5 crow divinity tribes, they were hope. They were the hope of the tribe. Nearly 1,000 people began to weep. As they wept, their feet stamped the ground and they began to sing. This song was the tribe's funeral dirge, the song sung to accompany the soul of any tribe member into death. 1,000 voices joined together, filled with the sound of youth, filled with tears. Perhaps you are still here. Perhaps you are watching your family. Perhaps you will return. We hope that the heavens will not obstruct your path. Let the land guide your way. The living, golden light of the crow divinity will cause your glorious bloodlines to remain in the world. We hope to prevent you from being buried by the sands of time, to prevent the devils from snatching you away, to prevent the demons from frightening you, to prevent any living thing from disturbing your rest. You are the warriors of the crow divinity. You are the pride of the crow divinity. You will exist forever in the lands of the crow divinity. We will await your return. The song echoed out across the battlefield, and as it did, Meng Hao could almost make out the image of countless souls appearing. They seemed to be slowly looking back at their home, their tribe. As the sound of the funeral dirge rose into the air, the members of the 5 tribes who were locked in battle found that tears were flowing down their faces. They began to laugh madly and slaughter with even more savagery. Their laughter and their tears caused the faces of their enemies, the cultivators of the spider branch, to fill with dread. In the past, they had slaughtered tribes, but never before had they seen the type of explosive insanity that they were seeing now. Now they were scared. Chapter 445, A Drop of Violet Rain. For the crow divinity, the funeral dirge ended, sung by nearly 1,000 tribe members within the shield. Outside, fellow tribe members roared as they fought, laughing madly. For the crow divinity, murmured Meng Hao. Cold glow appeared in his eyes as he looked at Zhao Yulin fleeing under nascent soul elder protection. Her face was pale, elders around her vigilant. Meng Hao looked at her coolly, then looked away. She would escape this day. Without earlier advantages, slaying her now would be too difficult. Meng Hao flickered into the force of 3,000 enemy cultivators. The lotus sword formation rotated next to him, sending out time's power. Everywhere he went, spider branch cultivators caught within the range grew older, faces filling with astonishment. Meng Hao caused a massacre. Donning the blood-colored mask, he waved his hand, sending the time sword formation towards 7 or 8 core formation cultivators. They instantly grew old, eyes fading like wind-extinguishing flame. Meng Hao waved his hand again, and shocking blood finger light appeared. Anyone who touched it felt their blood decay, then exploded into death. Meng Hao stepped forward, pointing with his left finger, stabbing it into a rampaging spider branch cultivator's forehead. He killed neatly and efficiently. With the wave of a sleeve, he summoned what remained of his neo-demon horde. 10,000 neo-demons roared out to join the chaotic battle. They fought side by side with the members of the 5 tribes. As the sound of the funeral dirge continued to echo out, they fought to the death with the spider branch. The black bat did not exhibit any of the strangeness it had in the previous battle. Its eyes glowed coldly as it disappeared in a flicker, to reappear behind a spider branch cultivator. It wrapped its wings around the man, who struggled with astonishment. 2 sharp fangs plunged into the cultivator's neck, and the man's flesh instantly withered up. Every time it did this, a bloody glow would appear in the eyes of the black bat, and its strange aura would grow a bit stronger. In the beginning it sought out the weakest cultivators, but gradually its gaze began to fall on early core formation cultivators. When Meng Hao occasionally looked over at it, it would suddenly restrain itself and not reveal any hints about what it was doing. However, it didn't take long before Meng Hao caught on to the vigilance being shown by the black bat in this regard. There's definitely some big mystery regarding this creature, thought Meng Hao. Now was not the time to think about such matters, though. After confirming that the brand connecting him to the bat was still intact, he continued on with his extermination of the spider branch cultivators. Within this chaotic battle, it wasn't just the black bat who fought dazzlingly. Big Harry, his fur shining like silver, descended into the fighting like a silver moon. The cloud of demon mosquitoes spread out, their vicious mouthparts guzzling fresh blood. The red crocodile, who was now the shape of a flying rain dragon, as well as the gigantic lizard, and all of Meng Hao's neodemons experienced a sort of baptism by means of the fighting. Everyone who survived only continued to grow stronger. Fueled by the madness and ferocity of the 5 tribes members, a stunning massacre was underway. The Spider Branch cultivators' morale plummeted. Once Meng Hao joined the battle, the tide clearly turned in the favor of the 5 tribes. When the neodemons appeared, the Spider Branch experienced an unprecedented feeling of devastation. It didn't take long before only 1,000 were left from the original force of 3,000. Blood soaked the ground, and the reek of gore filled the air. It was then that a miserable shriek could be heard from up above. Except for the 2 nascent soul cultivators protecting Zhao Yulen, the rest of the Spider Branch's elders were now locked in deadly combat with the 5 tribes' 7 nascent soul cultivators. Just now, the cry had come from one of the Spider Branch elders. He was a middle-aged man whose face was currently ashen. His pupils constricted as he retreated backward, a massive wound on his chest, within which his beating heart was actually visible. Directly in front of him was the Crow Gloom Grand Elder, his hair disheveled, his body covered with serious injuries. His shocking expression was one of madness, like that of a wild beast. A boom filled the air as the Crow Gloom Grand Elder's body suddenly exploded, as another of the Spider Branch elders took advantage of the situation to exterminate him. However, before he died, he lifted up his right hand, within which was the severed head of the middle-aged nascent soul cultivator. This was the first of the Spider Branch nascent soul cultivators to die in the battle. His death immediately caught the attention of the remaining 1,000 cultivators down below. As of this moment, it seemed that any remaining will to fight was now completely gone. All of them began to do everything in their power to flee. It was like tide waters, their faces filled with panic as they gave up attacking and focused completely on defense and full-speed flight. Even the remaining nascent soul cultivators up above seemed to have lost their will to do battle and were about to flee. Although the 5 tribes now had the upper hand in the battle, the price they had paid was an incredibly heavy one, far more than what could be made up for by capturing the Spider Branch. Therefore, how could they possibly allow the Spider Branch to flee? Kill them! Kill them! Their eyes red and filled with both frenzy and the comfort of revenge, the 5 tribes shot in pursuit. Many of the tribe members still had tears streaming down their faces. All the tribe members, both the ordinary cultivators and the nascent soul experts, joined in the chase. Meng Hao had no way to understand the pain they felt from the loss of their friends and family. However, what he could feel was the desire for revenge. For some reason, this also made him think of the Jai clan. Suddenly, another of the Spider Branch's nascent soul cultivators died. Hundreds of other cultivators were being slaughtered by Meng Hao's neodemons and the other 5 tribes' cultivators. They were like an avalanche, completely unstoppable. It was at this moment that all of a sudden, a raindrop fell onto Meng Hao with a light plopping sound. The color of this raindrop was somewhat strange. It was violet, and as soon as it landed on him, it stained his garment, soaking through to touch his skin. As soon as the raindrop hit him, he stopped in his tracks. The place where the raindrop had hit him felt cold. The cold aura seemed as if it had the power to exterminate life force. However, it was only one drop, so as far as Meng Hao was concerned, it was harmless. Violet rain, he thought, frowning. He looked up into the sky to see some random raindrops falling down from up above. Don't tell me that because so many people have died here that the aura of blood and hatred has merged together and transformed into clouds. Is that where this violet rain is coming from? After a moment of thought, he suppressed his doubts. Looking around, he saw that scattered raindrops were falling, not just on him, but on the bodies of others. Even some of the Spider Branch cultivators were getting hit. It didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary, but for some reason, Meng Hao couldn't shake the feeling that the rain had the power to exterminate life force. The thought of it swirled in the back of his mind. Zhao Yulen also noticed the rain. Earlier, she had been biting her lip as she watched her fellow tribe members dying. There was nothing she could do, unfortunately. No order from her could secure victory in this battle. The fighting had descended into chaos. Then the funeral dirge began and Zhao Yulen understood. The Spider Branch was suffering a complete defeat. She felt as if her heart were tearing apart. What stuck out most in her mind, though, the figure which had shocked her more than anything in her life, which had caused her trial by fire to become a complete failure and had almost killed her, was of course Meng Hao. However, it was then that a drop of violet rain landed on her face and then slowly flowed down her cheek. It felt cold and caused a tremor to run through her body. Without thinking, she reached up to wipe away the raindrop. When she looked down at the water on her hand, she frowned and suddenly looked even more anxious. "Violet rain," she gaped in shock. The violet rain was very light and was quickly forgotten by everyone except for Zhao Yulin and Meng Hao. Zhao Yulin had the same feeling that he did. Something about this rain seemed strange. All of a sudden, their gazes met across the vast battlefield, and they could see the vigilance in each other's eyes. "It's not him. It's not her." Meng Hao and Zhao Yulin could both sense each other hesitating. Their gazes separated, and it was in that instant that suddenly, sharp sounds could be heard coming from off in the distance. This was not the sound of a funeral dirge, but rather war bugles. The sound instantly lifted the spirits of the spider branch cultivators. Their will to fight suddenly surged up again, and they lifted their heads to the sky and roared. Even the spider branch nascent soul elders up above could not conceal their excitement. The two elders next to Zhao Yulin heaved sighs of relief. Only Zhao Yulin seemed taciturn as she looked up at the sky. Off in the distance could be seen a black streak that looked like seawaters as it whistled through the sky toward them. Up above, seemingly standing within the black seawaters, was an enormous red scorpion, emitting a shocking cry. "The scorpion branch," cried the high priest, who was currently locked in battle with the Crow soldier tribe Greatfather. When the Greatfather saw what was happening, his pupils constricted and he gasped. His expression was now filled with profound grief. If it weren't for the exotic heart devil flower, the 5 tribes might have been powerful enough to hold out through this war. But now, in midair, the members of the 5 tribes ceased their pursuit and began to group together. Their faces filled with madness as they look off into the distance at the approaching scorpion. This chapter was sponsored by Juho Parika and Nitish Markandai. Chapter 446, Totem Perishing. As the black streak beneath the scorpion neared, it became clear that it was not a black sea, but a group of roughly 5,000 cultivators wearing long black robes in formation. They blotted out the sky as they arrived, accompanied by war bugles drifting in all directions and the cultivators' roars. The sound caused the gigantic illusory scorpion above them to let out an incredible shriek. As it shrieked, the scorpion shot through the air toward the distorted area where the holy spider and sacred ancients battled, unseen by all. Booms filled heaven and earth. The scorpion was of the same level as the holy spider, which meant that the battle with the sacred ancients was instantly thrown out of balance. In years past, the totems of the 5 tribes matched the scorpion and holy spider in power. Over time, the crow divinity faded and the tribes weakened, which is why it took 5 to fight the holy spider alone. Now the balance shifted further. None could see them battling. Only the scorpion charging into the distortion was visible. After some 10 breaths before the scorpion branch cultivators arrived, a deep sigh echoed from above. An enormous stone golem shot forth from the distortion. Its body crumbled, black strands emanating from it. A gigantic hole gaped in its chest. This was the Crow fighter tribe's totemic sacred ancient, and at this moment, death's aura enveloped it. With a sigh, it shot from the distortion. Before it could escape far, a black shadow emerged and transformed into a scorpion tail, slamming into the stone golem. Poison erupted through its body, and cracks spread across it, revealing an earthy yellow glow. The glow became an earth-colored totem, which filled with cracks and exploded. The Crow fighter tribe's totemic sacred ancient. It perished. The blow struck the 5 tribes as hard as watching their members fall to the exotic heart devil flower. The totems were legacies from the sacred ancient, bound to it by profound connection. The members of the Crow fighter tribe trembled. Their faith crumbled as blood sprayed from their mouths, and their stone golem totem tattoos faded away. As the totem tattoos faded, their cultivation bases immediately dropped an entire stage. Nascent soul became core formation. Core formation became foundation establishment. Foundation establishment dropped directly to chi condensation. The Crow fighter tribe's collapse immediately shifted the battle. A disconsolate howl sounded as clouds of vapor expanded from the distortion above, dissipating into the surroundings. Every member of the Crow Gloom tribe coughed up blood. Their bodies sagged as their water-type totem tattoos faded and their cultivation bases dropped a full level. The Crow Gloom priest's face was pale as he coughed up blood and staggered backward. A sad smile crossed his face as his nascent soul power vanished, and weakness spread through him. The 5 tribes understood at once. The crow gloom totemic sacred ancient had perished. All of this happened in mere breaths. As events unfolded, the scorpion branch cultivators whistled through the air, drawing closer. Meng Hao surveyed the 5,000 incoming warriors and noticed one young man in a red robe standing apart from the rest. His clothes and bearing were completely different. Meng Hao sensed something familiar about him, something that reminded him of Zhao Yulin, the holy son of the 5 poison tribes scorpion branch. Meng Hao's eyes glittered. Since Zhao Yulin was a holy daughter, this handsome, extraordinary, and sinister-looking young man had to be her counterpart. As the scorpion branch neared, the holy son waved his hand, sending 4,000 cultivators toward the battlefield. At Meng Hao's will, the neo-demon horde roared in response. As the roar shook heaven and earth, the holy son ignored the fighting and approached Zhao Yulin with a slight smile. "The tribe honored you, the most talented holy daughter, with this trial by fire," he said. "And you lost an arm. Soon the entire tribe will know. I pity you, Zhao Yulin. Even when we claim these 5 crow divinity tribes spot in the realm of the bridge ruins, there may be no place for you." Zhao Yulin's expression was cold as she looked at the holy son. "Who cut off your arm?" he continued with a smile. "You even requested the exotic heart devil flower and still failed. Such a pity." "Are you finished, Zhao Chunmo?" said Zhao Yulin coolly. "My victory or defeat is no concern of yours. If you subjugate these 5 crow divinity tribes, you have my congratulations." "We view things very differently," said holy son Zhao Chunmo. "Had I led this battle, we would have won long ago. No need for a precious exotic heart devil flower. Just destroy the totems and all ends. Why complicate matters? Your soft-heartedness is your greatest weakness, Zhao Yulin." He laughed sinisterly. The 4,000 scorpion branch cultivators dove into battle with hideous grins and sinister eyes. Totemic light blazed from their bodies as they attacked more viciously than the spider branch. Without resistance from Meng Hao's neo-demons, the 5 tribes would have suffered heavy casualties. Though only 2 sacred ancients had fallen, weakening 2 tribes, the other 3 showed ashen faces filled with despair. At this pace, defeat was inevitable. Suddenly Meng Hao spoke, his voice as powerful as thunder. "You don't fight for the crow divinity." The 5 tribes turned to face him. "Look at the blood and corpses that litter the land. Those are your friends and fellow tribe members. Fight for them. Look at the elderly and young behind that shield. Your family and blood. Fight for them. Stand tall against the 5 poisons cultivators. Fight for your friends. Fight for your family. You are the last defense. If you yield, your families are exterminated. Go all out. We may not win, but without risk, defeat is certain. Fight for them. Will you truly hold back now?" Meng Hao lifted his head and roared, shaking the hearts and minds of the 5 tribes. Madness burned in their eyes once more. Their exhaustion and hopelessness transformed into explosive, desperate fury. "To battle! Cultivation!" 2,000 members of the 5 tribes roared and charged at the scorpion branch, their madness burning so fiercely they no longer feared death. Meng Hao led the charge with his neo-demons. Roaring filled the air and slaughter's intent spread everywhere. Without him, the 5 tribes would have been defeated long ago, slaughtered wholesale, the survivors enslaved by the 5 poisons tribe. Zhao Chunmu finally took notice of Meng Hao. He observed him briefly, then chuckled. "Ah, a dragoneer," said Zhao Chunmu. "Your hesitation kept him alive. As for me, there is one course of action: strike like lightning and exterminate him immediately." Killing intent glittered in his eyes as he pointed toward Meng Hao on the battlefield. 18 stealth guards, you have 10 breaths to kill that man." Zhao Yulin's face remained composed, but she stepped back, distancing herself from Zhao Chunmu. The 2 nascent soul elders beside her hesitated, but after looking at her said nothing. When Zhao Chunmu pointed, Meng Hao sensed it and looked over with cold eyes. He waved his hand and blood chi surged out, enveloping 2 scorpion branch cultivators. They screamed as their bodies withered. "I let Zhao Yulin escape, but this holy son will not." Killing intent flickered in Meng Hao's eyes as he devised Zhao Chunmu's death. His pupils constricted and his body vanished, blood burst flash. When he reappeared, he was 10 meters away. The moment he materialized, 16 needle-like bands of light filled the space he just occupied. Had he remained there, the needles would have pierced him through. Meng Hao's eyes glowed cold as he punched out. The air collapsed, forcing an assassin to appear, a woman with a sweet, charming face. Surprise flashed in her eyes as his fist struck her, and her body exploded. Without pause, he shot backward to evade another needle whistling through the air. He snorted coldly and lifted his left hand, wreathed in bloody glow. He thrust it forward, and a woman shrieked as he seized her head. He drove his knee into her skull. There was a bang, another dead. "Here to assassinate me," said Meng Hao, a cold smile twisting his lips. Zhao Chunmu's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Zhao. Chunmu Zhao is a surname, the same surname as Zhao Yulin's. Chun means spring. Mu means wood. Two people had been killed, causing Zhao Chunmu's eyes to flicker. However, his expression remained unchanged. Meng Hao released the head he held. Eyes flickering, he lifted his hand and gestured toward the ground. Immediately, a blinding bloody light shone from his body, spreading to cover dozens of meters in all directions. Within this blood-death world, 15 figures became visible. They appeared, and Meng Hao stepped forward. Blood flowed through his left fingers as he tapped one figure's forehead while punching another with his right hand. Blood sprayed everywhere amid blood-curdling screams. Meng Hao's form turned crimson. He flicked his sleeve, grabbed another woman and drew a medicinal pill from his bag of holding. He forced it into her mouth. After a few breaths, the woman's body swelled and exploded, spraying blood dozens of meters in all directions. It showered 4 or 5 nearby assassins, who shrieked in agony as their bodies dissolved into blood. "Poison cultivator," cried the remaining 4. They were tall, slender, and beautiful, yet their faces now showed only astonishment at Meng Hao's ruthless slaughter. Pale, they retreated at once, abandoning all assassination attempts and fleeing from what they now considered the most terrifying existence. "Wanna run?" said Meng Hao, expressionless. These women had bizarre forms. Without the blood-death world and his faint demonic qi, he wouldn't have been able to keep them at bay. His words still echoing, Meng Hao advanced. The women's faces filled with despair, then shifted to viciousness. Just as they attacked, Meng Hao smiled. The blood-death world shrunk instantly, like a gigantic hand clenching the 4 women. A rumbling echoed as the fist crushed them. Meng Hao hung suspended. The surrounding dozens of meters lay empty. The distant scorpion branch cultivators watched with fear. The 5 tribes members, meanwhile, grew excited and intensified their slaughter. Zhao Chunmu chuckled coolly. "It's not over, why?" His face suddenly filled with astonishment. A dark figure materialized directly behind Meng Hao, silent and rippleless, bizarre as a ghost. It shot toward him at impossible speed, nearly teleporting. But just as it reached him, it shrieked, its right hand, poised to stab his back, suddenly shredded to pieces as if by a massive rotating blade. Meng Hao's hand shot back and seized the final assassin's throat. He dragged her forward, clenched his fist, and glared at Zhao Chunmu with killing intent. Zhao Chunmu's heart filled with cold dread. Meng Hao had just slain 18 stealth guards. What he didn't see was the sneer on Zhao Yulin's face, or her quiet retreat, distancing herself further from him. 9 grand elders, supreme priest, spare nothing, kill that man. 10 figures teleported toward Meng Hao, 9 in early nascent soul stage, 1 in mid-nascent soul. Their combined assault shook heaven and earth. But then a bitter sigh echoed from above. "Tribe, I have protected you for many years, but unfortunately I can accompany you no more. Before I return to the dust, I will give you a final chance to live." A rumbling echoed through Meng Hao, shaking him. He looked up to see the Crow Scout tribe's tree breaking apart into death, just like the earth and water totems before it. As it died, vast life force surged downward toward the 5 tribes, fusing into their bodies as healing power. But the tree's death had a cost. The totem tattoos on the Crow Scout tribe members began to fade, and their cultivation bases started to drop. Before they could fall, the wood character totem tattoo on Meng Hao's forehead erupted with glowing light. A massive tree materialized above him. Close up, it was a great tree. From afar, it resembled the character wood. The Crow Scout tribe members' tattoos ceased fading and began transforming. Within breaths, their totems stabilized, no longer greenwood totems, but the wood totem of Meng Hao. This scene was beyond even Meng Hao's imagination. The wood totems appeared and a tremor shook him. He suddenly could sense all the Crow Scout tribe members. He felt their zeal and passion, and a continuous flow of life force poured into him. His aura expanded rapidly. His wood-type totem tattoo emitted boundless, shocking light. Not only were the 5 tribes stunned, the cultivators of the Scorpion branch were shocked and in disbelief. Zhao Yulin's eyes widened, her breath quickening. Zhao Chunmu stared in disbelief. As Western desert cultivators, they knew that totems arose only from neo-demons. Cultivators, practiced cultivation, and could never produce totemic power. What unfolded exceeded their comprehension. Meng Hao had become the Crow Scout tribe's totemic sacred ancient. His totem was now theirs. The explosive aura growth meant that, like totemic neo-demons, he absorbed the tribe's worship power. This incredible power was why such neo-demons could bestow totems. Above in the sky where totems battled, a sigh echoed. Below, shock rippled through the ranks. Since he became a totem, his totem is now the sacred ancient of the tribe. He can absorb our power. Could he not be a cultivator but a neo-demon? The shock roiled the entire battlefield. Moments before, the Crow Scout tribe members were losing their cultivation bases to the Treant's death. Now their bases remained intact, weakened but not fallen a full stage. An indescribable connection bound them to Meng Hao. They gazed at him, their hearts swelling with zeal and reverence. Sacred Ancient. We members of the Crow Scout tribe offer our respect, Sacred Ancient. One by one they shouted and roared. Instantly their ferocity intensified. Meng Hao panted, his mind reeling. Then clarity came. His eyes flickered as he seized the aura surge and pointed upward. Without a face, an enormous face appeared, eyes closed. Bloody glow spread outward, transforming into power that slammed into the 9 advancing nascent soul cultivators. They retreated at once. A single word. Meng Hao felt unimaginable power welling up, not from himself but from elsewhere. He could sense he couldn't store or fuse it with his cultivation base. Doing so would violate some rule. This power came from the Crow Scout tribe, only a few hundred strong, but their zeal made it potent beyond measure. This borrowed power sustained him and unlocked the second form of the blood immortal divine ability, which before had drained his life. Meng Hao's spiritual sense surged. He spread it outward, focused ahead. The giant face, breaking apart, suddenly clarified. Its closed eyes opened as did its mouth. A sound emerged, strange yet clear to all. As Meng Hao pointed downward, the air rippled. The scorpion branch's mid-nascent soul supreme priest's face filled with disbelief. He trembled as if struck by invisible force. He tried to retreat but staggered only a few paces before blood sprayed from his mouth. Eyes wide with fear, he gasped, "Joss Flame." He wields Joss Flame power. Only totem neo-demons can do that. The 9 other nascent soul elders coughed up blood in shock and horror. Meng Hao floated suspended, hair whipping, robes flapping. A strange glow shone in his eyes. With each breath, the Crow Scout tribe's zealous power poured into him. "Joss Flame, huh?" murmured Meng Hao. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them, fierce glow blazing. Flames of War Unify. Without a face, a single word, Flames of War Unify. 3 blood immortal divine ability forms. Through Joss Flame's power, Meng Hao could now truly unleash the third form, Flames of War Unify. This chapter was sponsored by Jonathan Tanomiharja, Joshua Evans, Alexander Gates, Addictive Anima, and LB. The 3 blood immortal forms caused black smoke to billow from the 9 nascent soul elders' bodies, beyond their control. Their faces fell instantly. They realized at once, the smoke came from burning life force. Their life force was the fuel, the black smoke was the result. Shock filled them. They attempted various techniques and divine abilities, but they couldn't prevent the burning. The black smoke continued to billow. The black smoke swirled with thick death aura, a mass of inky darkness. From afar it resembled burning flames of war. The sight was shocking. The Supreme Priest too had black smoke rolling off him. The 10 nascent soul cultivators' faces showed shock at this unevadable divine ability. Then hatred filled their eyes, and they teleported toward Meng Hao once more. 10 figures closed in from all directions. Meng Hao closed his eyes. Something within the black smoke was familiar, like the death aura he'd sensed above the Tower of Tang in the state of Zhao, when infected by a fallen immortal's power near the rebirth cave. There must be similarity. A cold glint appeared in his eyes. He made incantation gestures with both hands, then waved them outward. Flames of war shot skyward. The power he'd absorbed from hundreds of Crow Scout tribe members flowed through, and the flames exploded with shocking force. The 10 cultivators coughed up blood immediately. The closer they charged toward Meng Hao, the more life force they burned. Meng Hao had become a destructive force, consuming all life forces. Yet they had no choice but to charge forward. Retreat meant death. Only killing Meng Hao could save them. They roared and charged. Meng Hao closed his eyes and sensed the boundless Joss Flame power within. The enormous face appeared again, but this time different. This time it bore Meng Hao's semblance. Meng Hao's eyes opened, and so did the faces. Its lips quivered. As flames of war seemed to rise, a single word was uttered. Collapse. His voice echoed, and the black smoke roared, an earth-shaking explosion. The 10 cultivators' life forces erupted, harming them with their own power. 9 cultivators coughed up blood, tumbling backward like severed kites. They flew 300 meters away, bodies aged and listless. Their life forces dimmed. They'd lost nearly half their longevity. When they stopped, their faces were ghastly. Fear took root in their hearts. They weren't fighting a cultivator, but a totemic sacred ancient. The Joss flame power was incongruous with their totem-based cultivation. Combined with Meng Hao's blood immortal abilities, he thoroughly shook them. The supreme priest spat blood. Stronger than the other 9, he too was severely injured. All trembled inwardly. Meng Hao sighed. He'd attacked with full Joss flame power and only injured them. 10 nascent soul cultivators were formidable. Against 1 or 2, he was confident he could kill them with borrowed power. But they recovered, their killing intent intensifying. They flickered forward once more. Suddenly, a massive sea of flame exploded from the distorted battle above, spreading to cover half the sky. The flames lit every face below, astonishing all. Within the flames, a figure reclined, golden light rising and melting away. That golden light was the Crow Soldier Tribe's metal-type sacred ancient. The Flame Sea was the Crow Flame Tribe's fire-type sacred ancient. All below looked up at the scene. An archaic voice echoed from above. I cannot continue protecting the 5 Crow divinity tribes, but the Flame Totem and I will fight to put you in a good position. Our 10,000 years of karma must disperse. We wish you peace and safety. The flame sea contracted rapidly, shooting toward the golden light. In a blink, it surrounded it completely, transforming into a gigantic sun. Death aura swirled within. Below, the Crow Soldier and Crow Flame tribes trembled. Their totems rapidly dissipated. Grief and sorrow filled their hearts. Sacred Ancient. Sacred Ancient. Wails rose skyward. Neither totem could hear them. The 5 tribes' cries echoed as golden light and flames merged within the burning sun. Everything glowed with its light, and visible within was a golden crow. Meng Hao's eyes widened. The aura felt somewhat familiar, yet mostly unfamiliar. It's not her, he whispered. Only a sliver of consciousness remains. Gold and fire sacrificed themselves to transform. The golden crow roared and shot from the sun toward the spider and scorpion, which turned to meet it. This totemic battle lay beyond cultivator interference. The 3 slammed together. The crow burst into flames, golden light spreading. It expanded, 300 meters, 3,000, 30,000. It filled the sky, enveloping the spider and scorpion. Totems, I call upon the crow divinity's vestiges to seal you and your totemic root. 5 poisons demons be sealed. The archaic voice was weak. The golden crow enveloped both completely, transforming into an enormous golden bubble. The frantic spider and scorpion attacked madly inside, trying to escape. Seal, the golden bubble glittered with flames as it shot away with both sacred ancients. All watched as it flew from the mountains. Its destination, the plains of the 5 Poisons tribe, where it would seal the other 3 sacred ancients as well. This was the final price of the Crow divinity's totems, ultimate protection for the 5 tribes. The seal would last half a 60-year cycle. Their burned life forces created it, and their deaths caught the attention of the Golden Crow's sliver of will, which would persist for that duration. The 5 Poisons tribe's other 3 sacred ancients would meet similar fates. Even if the tribe moved again, they couldn't employ their sacred ancients' strength. Zhao Yulin coughed up blood. So did all surviving spider branch cultivators. Their cultivation bases dropped a full stage instantly. When the sacred ancients were sealed, their auras sealed as if in death, they couldn't bestow power. That caused the cultivation drop. Zhao Chunmu and the scorpion branch cultivators coughed up blood too. Shock filled their faces as their bases fell. The 10 nascent soul cultivators' faces fell. They panted as their cultivation bases weakened. Soon they dropped from nascent soul. This was unique to Western desert cultivators. They borrowed totem power, but when a sacred ancient died, they lost a tattoo and cultivation. Southern domain cultivators, cultivation was theirs alone. That's why it was much harder to practice there. The Crow divinity faced the same fate from the metal and fire-type losses. As the Crow soldier tribe's tattoos vanished, golden light burst from Meng Hao. A new generation replaced the old. Golden light radiated from his metal-type totem tattoo, the ancient character metal on his chest. The Crow soldier tribe trembled. Their old metal tattoos faded, replaced with new ones resembling Meng Hao's, the ancient character for metal. Boundless Joss flame power erupted from them toward Meng Hao, covering his golden body. His aura surged. His hair whipped wildly, green and gold lights swirling around him. Two massive characters appeared before him, wood and metal emanating shocking power. Excited, the Crow soldier tribe members clasped hands and bowed to Meng Hao. Their roars filled the air. Sacred Ancient. Greetings, Sacred Ancient. As Meng Hao's wood and metal-type power displayed spectacularly, the Joss flame's power thickened around him, and suddenly a flame appeared within. This was not Joss flame, but something inside him all along, the East Pill ever-burning flame. This chapter was sponsored by Ian Wright. The East Pill ever-burning flame had been inside Meng Hao all along, a gift from his master pill demon for pill concocting. He'd observed it that year and fused the seed with his core. When ignited fully, it became an ever-burning fire within him. When he committed to the five-colored nascent soul path, he hadn't thought the ever-burning flame relevant. He assumed he'd need different totems for the five elements, but suddenly the flame erupted, shaking him. He realized his mistake. The five-colored path and five-element attributes weren't limited to totems. Any blessing in heaven and earth could become part of his path. The ever-burning flame, drawn by Joss flame power and his two totems of metal and wood, burned in all directions, melting the air around him. The fire character appeared near his dantian. Flames surged skyward. The fire-type totem seed from the five Crow divinity tribes flew from his bag of holding. Already half dissipated, Meng Hao rotated the ever-burning flame to envelop and assimilate it. The Crow flame tribe members trembled as Meng Hao absorbed the seed. Their fading fire-type tattoos suddenly transformed. Now they matched Meng Hao's fire character. Joss flame power erupted from them toward Meng Hao. Excited, they dropped to their knees. Sacred Ancient. Greetings, Sacred Ancient. Meng Hao's body roared with power, his aura shocking as he floated suspended. Joss flame from over 1,000 Crow tribes coalesced toward his fire tattoo. The fire character blazed, sharp and bright, sending a sea of flames around him. Three characters floated near him: metal, wood, fire, three totems blinding light. His cultivation base surged explosively. His vision blurred momentarily, then cleared. The world filled with streaks and glowing nodes. He could appear at any one of them. Minor teleportation. His mind spun. He was certain he could merge into the air. He now possessed the divine ability only nascent soul stages could employ. With it, he could evade any enemy. The five-colored path was correct. I can forge my own Tao. His eyes blazed with confidence. What cultivators cultivate is confidence. Meng Hao sensed the three totems' power circling him. He waved his hand, spreading flames and merging wood power, making them rage higher. Scorpion cultivators shrieked and flew backward in astonishment. The 10 nascent soul cultivators had already fled. Unstable, they didn't dare face Meng Hao at peak power. His left hand flickered incantations, fueling flames with metal power. They congealed, golden liquid shooting out like rain, the will of metal spreading. These divine abilities transformed the battle. Though 3,000 scorpion cultivators remained, fear filled them. Like the spider branch before, they lost their will to fight. All 5 Crow divinity tribes now bowed to Meng Hao in deep approval. The Crow soldier greatfather and 5 nascent soul cultivators watched Meng Hao with deep respect. They forced their bases to nascent soul momentarily, but after battle, only 3 would remain there. The Crow gloom and Crow fighter cultivators would fall. Zhao Yulin watched silently with phoenix-like eyes. Zhao Chunmu's face was pale beside her, 5 poison's members retreating around him. Distant, an old man watched on a giant mirror, leading 20,000 cultivators. A sacred ancient transformation, a dragoneer becoming an ancestor. If we could replicate this, it's an unprecedented windfall. Spare no cost, he ordered coolly, strange light gleaming in his eyes. Employ teleportation. I will see this man within an incense stick's burn. His tribe members spread the order. Teleportation glowed as they vanished, a violet raindrop landing on the old man's body. Violet rain. He looked at it in shock, then frowned as he vanished. Violet rain fell again, this time covering mountains and plains of the 5 poisons tribe. It held exterminating coldness, the will of extinction scattered in fragments. It mixed with blood before Meng Hao. Few noticed it. Meng Hao and a handful of others hesitated seeing it, but battle pressed on. Floating suspended, his gaze turned cold toward Zhao Chunmu. Zhao Yulin's pupils constricted. She'd been quietly edging away from him all along. When she saw Meng Hao's gaze, she moved without hesitation, shooting backward. Zhao Chunmu felt the gaze and his heart trembled. Watching Yulin flee, he realized. The person who cut off her arm was this new sacred ancient. He wants to kill me, horror filled him. Meng Hao had slaughtered his stealth guards. 9 nascent soul elders and the supreme priest couldn't shake him. Panic seized him as he backed up. 9 grand elders, supreme priest, save me. Meng Hao moved the instant he looked at him, shooting like an arrow. The 9 elders and supreme priest hesitated only a moment, then gritted their teeth and charged. A cold smile twisted Meng Hao's lips. He hadn't used teleportation yet to draw them in. Zhao Chunmu was bait. He didn't matter. Meng Hao wanted only the 9 early nascent soul cultivators and the mid-stage one. As they approached, killing intent flickered in his eyes. Suddenly, he teleported. All watching gasped. The 10 nascent soul cultivators realized this was bloodburst flash but true minor teleportation. Not good, the supreme priest cried. Meng Hao appeared behind one elder, his fist smashed down with world-destroying power. The cultivator's face fell. His body blurred as he attempted teleportation. He spat a colorful beam that became talisman paper, shooting at Meng Hao. His fist, filled with exterminating power, landed simultaneously. A boom, the paper collapsed. The cultivator finished teleporting and disappeared. Meng Hao snorted coldly. He teleported after, catching up in a blink. His fist descended again. Another boom. The cultivator spat nascent soul aura with 8 magical items, all exploding. His body exploded in self-detonation. A flying sword swept his nascent soul, borrowing the explosion's momentum to flee, weakened. Chapter 450, Downpour of Violet Rain. Self-detonation was useless against the eyeless larva. Meng Hao waved his hand as the nascent soul fled. Larva silk whistled out, surrounding it. The nascent soul's face filled with despair as it attempted resistance with brilliant light. But the light shattered against the silk. The silk wrapped crushingly, strangling it to death. A shriek echoed as the scorpion elder's body collapsed, and his nascent soul crushed to pieces. The onlookers reeled. Meng Hao's viciousness and cold tactics made his intent clear: extermination. With teleportation, he could battle nascent soul cultivators freely. The nascent soul cultivators were injured. The sealed scorpion made their nascent souls unstable. The supreme priest's face flickered with hatred as he retreated, unwilling to be entangled further. The other 8 were terrified. At peak power, they could join hands against him. But injured, they refused to fight and backed away, putting distance between themselves and Meng Hao. Meng Hao sighed inwardly with relief. He'd known he had to kill fast or kill multiple. Nascent soul cultivators were rare prodigies, crafty and difficult to kill. He'd outsmarted them, exterminating one quickly. They didn't want to continue. If they did, killing them would be harder. They won't fight, Meng Hao thought. Fear is planted, next time easier. He breathed deeply, confidence shining. This was his first solo kill of a nascent soul cultivator. His feet were now firmly planted in the cultivation world. Before the metal totem, killing a single early nascent soul would have been hard. Now with 3 totems, despite being in the great circle of core formation, his battle prowess bridged the gap to nascent soul, the supposedly uncrossable divide. Meng Hao disappeared. When he reappeared, he stood next to Zhao Chunmu. Zhao Chunmu screamed, his pale face terror-filled. "Since I can't catch the big fish, there's no need for bait," said Meng Hao coolly. He raised his hand. Zhao Chunmu couldn't resist as Meng Hao tapped his forehead. The slight tap became a roar. Zhao Chunmu's head exploded. His body twitched on the ground. On the battlefield, the 5 Crow divinity tribes fought the Scorpion branch with growing intensity. After killing a nascent soul cultivator and the Holy Sun, the Scorpion branches were shattered. As they retreated, the Crow tribes gained the upper hand. Though less than 1,000 remained, they attacked with wild abandon. Meng Hao's 7,000 neo-demons were critical to their fight. Meng Hao looked across the battlefield and his gaze fell on Zhao Yulin. Her face paled instantly. The 2 nascent soul elders beside her and the high priest moved to protect her, growing nervous. Meng Hao's valiance had shaken them. Thunder erupted from above, a unique sound like countless people wailing. It shocked the soul itself. Then rain began, violet pouring heavily, not the scattered drops of before. The rain held cold, destructive will, as if seeking all life's extinction. It spread on the ground like an omen. Meng Hao felt crisis. He looked up at the violet rain and frowned. This rain, something's wrong. Almost at the same time that the rain began to fall, a blinding light appeared up in the sky not far away. Countless figures began to emerge at top speed. These people were none other than members of the Five Poisons tribe. Their appearance instantly caused the looks of despair on the faces of the scorpion branch cultivators to vanish. Meng Hao's pupils constricted, and he shot backward with a flick of a sleeve. Members of the Five Crow divinity tribes fall back to the area behind the shield. His voice caught the attention of all the Five Crow divinity tribes on the battlefield. One by one, they silently looked up into the sky and then began to retreat. Suddenly, a huge gap appeared on the battlefield between the two forces. The 20,000 Five Poisons tribe cultivators whistled through the air toward the battlefield, smiling coldly, eyes filled with the desire to kill. Their numbers seemed to blot out the sky. The group included quite a few dragoneers, each one of whom possessed thousands of neo-demons, and in the case of a few, even tens of thousands. The neo-demons flew behind the cultivators like a gigantic sea. Among the group were more than 30 nascent soul cultivators, including 6 priests. Even more impressive, one of their number was an old man in a white robe. His skin was dark brown, and his eyes shone with a threatening light. Shockingly, this man was of the late nascent soul stage. This man was the leader of all the priests in the Five Poisons tribe. He was the high priest of the entire Five Poisons tribe, a position similar to Great Father. "Greetings, High Priest. We offer you our respects, High Priest." It didn't matter if they were from the Spider branch or the Scorpion branch. All of the remaining cultivators on the battlefield dropped to their knees and kowtowed to the old man. So did Zhao Yulin. The Crow divinity tribes were clearly not capable of fighting back against someone so powerful. Furthermore, the source of their shield was already gone, and the shield itself was growing thin. From the look of it, it would only last another 4 hours. Meng Hao stood there outside of the shield. Next to him were the remaining nascent soul cultivators of the 5 tribes, including the Crow soldier tribe Greatfather. All of them had extremely unsightly faces. Under Meng Hao's command, the remaining 7,000 or so neo-demons in his horde were positioned protectively around the shield. Everything was very quiet, making the battlefield seem almost like a graveyard. The violet rain began to fall even harder. Amidst this deathly silence, the Five Poisons tribe's high priest, the brown-skinned old man, coolly said, "Leave none alive." All of the Five Poisons tribe's 20,000 cultivators and their neo-demons roared. As they did, they surged forward like seawaters toward Meng Hao and the others. As the enemy neared, Meng Hao took a deep breath, and his eyes filled with coldness. He did not summon the agar wood. That was something he could only use to protect himself, and was not a tool for a battle like this. From beginning to end, Meng Hao had been filled with confidence regarding this battle. That was because, the entire time he had kept one card up his sleeve. One trump card yet to be played. Suddenly, Meng Hao's voice echoed out. "Vines, Thorn Rampart." As soon as the words filled the air, a howling noise could be heard coming from the body of the wild giant. There was a blood-colored vine wrapped around it that suddenly shot out. Instantly, thorns sprang out from its body as it burrowed into the ground. The moment the vine burrowed into the ground, the earth in front of the attacking Five Poisons tribe army exploded up as countless thorns exploded out. The shortest of the thorns were roughly 25 meters long. The largest were over 300. They shot out in waves to protectively surround the Crow divinity tribes. Even more bizarre, each of these thorns quickly began to bristle with even smaller thorns. Even as the Five Poisons tribe charged, these vines formed a protective barrier, completely covering over the Crow divinity tribes. These thorns were a sacred relic of the Frigid Snow Clan. Upon leaving Holy Snow City, the patriarch of the Frigid Snow Clan granted them to Meng Hao as a reward. Later, Meng Hao fed them to his vine. After the passage of much time, the vines absorbed the thorns, and then mutated. 1. Meng Hao first used the Thorn Rampart in Chapter 369. He was given the Thorn Rampart seed in Chapter 382. The appearance of the Thorn Rampart caused the face of the Five Poisons tribe high priest to fill with shock. That's the Annihilation Thorn Rampart of the Frigid Snow Clan. Supposedly, nothing under the spirit-severing stage can break through it. Well, let's see if that legend is true or false. With a cold snort, he waved his right hand. Immediately, the surrounding cultivators and neo-demon hordes proceeded to attack the Thorn Rampart. Meng Hao took a deep breath and then sat down cross-legged. He coagulated a drop of life blood, which he then fused into the Thorn Rampart. Once his spiritual sense merged with it, he used this method to fight against the Five Poisons tribe. Roaring filled the air outside as the Neo-Demon horde slammed into the Thorn Rampart's shield. Rumbling rose up, along with the miserable cries of the Neo-Demons. With the Thorn Rampart in place, nothing under the spirit-severing stage could step even half a pace beyond it. Outside, booms filled the air, along with the light of magical treasures and the glows of totems. Everything shook violently, and even the mountains seemed on the verge of collapse. The Thorn Rampart vibrated, and some cracks even appeared, but it did not fall. At the same time, thorns shot out from the vines. In a relatively short period of time, a vast number of Neo-Demons had been killed. Of the 20,000 cultivators, more than 3,000 had been stabbed through with thorns. They could only let out blood-curdling shrieks as their life force was sucked away, and they were transformed into desiccated corpses. It seemed the battle would not stop until one side had been exterminated. However, it was at this time that suddenly more thunder filled the sky. It sounded like countless people weeping. The violet rain grew even harder. A bit of the rain was absorbed into the earth, but most began to pool up on the ground. Now, puddles were forming in some of the lower areas. This caught the attention of Meng Hao as well as Zhao Yulen. The nascent soul cultivators of the Five Poisons tribe also noticed, as did the high priest. He stared in shock for a long moment at the rainwater, and then suddenly, his face fell. Thoroughly and completely fell. This is. The high priest's body began to tremble. Considering his intelligence and the level of his cultivation base, even something that could lead to the destruction of his tribe would not cause him to lose control of his facial expression in such a way. The only thing that would be something shocking that far exceeded the destruction of a tribe. This chapter was sponsored by Gregory Treat, Michael Harrison, and Joshua Evans. A legend existed in the Western Desert, its source unknown. Over the years, all tribes recorded it in ancient records passed down generations. But time passed, and knowledge faded from memory. Long ago, the Western Desert was a sea, not a continent. It had lasted 30,000 years before vanishing to reveal the land beneath. This sea was violet, not the Milky Way's color. Its waters destroyed all life and cut off spiritual energy, making it a prohibited zone. An intentional division separated the two seas. According to the legend, the Western Sea did have land. One area was connected to the southern domain. That was none other than the Black Lands. The Black Lands were the highest place in the entire continent, including the Western Desert and the Southern Domain, so high that even after the Western Desert became a sea, it still existed. The legend said that long before the Western Desert, and even before the Western Sea, the entire land was filled with abundant resources and dense spiritual energy. However, it was struck by violent rain that lasted many years. The rainwater did not soak into the earth, but rather began to collect on its surface. Gradually, the waters turned into streams, which then formed lakes and eventually turned into a sea. The violet rain destroyed the life force of any living thing it touched and cut off spiritual energy. All spell formations ceased to function, making it impossible for cultivators to survive there. Innumerable life forms became nothing more than skeletons, reaching the end of their path. This was a catastrophe that affected all tribes in the Western Desert, an apocalypse of heaven and earth. This was the legend that existed within each and every tribe. The body of the Five Poisons tribe high priest trembled, his face pale. He reached out to catch some violet raindrops, staring blankly as it felt like his cultivation base was fading away. He looked down as the rainwater collected on the ground, mixing with blood. In some places, the water drained into cracks in the earth, but mostly it floated there, mixing with blood. Dread filled the high priest's eyes as he panted. This is impossible, he murmured. Some of the Five Poison tribe's nascent soul cultivators seemed to be reaching the same conclusion. Their faces flickered as they looked at the violet rain. Zhao Yulen suddenly staggered backward a few steps, staring blankly at the rain. Clearly, she too had just come to a certain realization. At the same time, inside the Thorn Rampart, the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather stared at the rain in shock. Despair filled him, darker than the destruction of his tribe. Apocalypse. The Western Desert Apocalypse. According to the legends, an apocalypse will come that will exterminate all life and change the Western Desert into the Western Sea. The Five Poisons tribe high priest backed up a few steps. At that moment, the war, the spot in the realm of the bridge ruins, the spoils, none of them were important. Without hesitation, he activated the teleportation spell to test if the stories about the violet rain were true. It had worked before, but now, nothing. The rain blocked its power entirely. Horror roared through the high priest's mind. Migrate, the tribe must migrate, he murmured to himself. The western desert north is the lowest place. The sea will rise there first. We must go south to the black lands near the southern domain. The rain grew heavier. Already, the cultivators sensed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth thinning. The 5 Poisons tribe members' faces fell. The black lands, the black lands. Now I understand. His eyes went wide with urgency. It makes sense. Long ago, the 3 great tribes with spirit-severing patriarchs invaded the Black Lands and allied with powers there. They were careful not to offend the southern domain. After the war, other tribes also migrated to the Black Lands. They knew, they carved out an area for themselves, making it easier to have dealings with the southern domain. Now it all makes sense. The high priest's panting grew, even more intense. Those 3 great tribes knew all along the apocalypse was coming. They occupied the Black Lands and now control all access to it. Without spilling a drop of blood, they wrested control over all the western desert powers. They will control the fate of thousands of tribes during the apocalypse. The high priest's eyes filled with anxiety. The Black Lands are small. They cannot hold all western desert tribes, but any who don't go there will be exterminated without a doubt. The 5 Poisons tribe is in the north, so far away. He suddenly raised his voice loudly. All 5 Poisons tribe members hear my orders. We must leave this place immediately. Whatever the cost, return to the tribe at greatest speed. Every bit of time was critical. The war with the remnants of the Crow divinity tribes was now meaningless. He regretted having gone to war at all. The members of the 5 Poisons tribe heard his words and gaped in astonishment. But based on the elders' ashen expressions, they sensed something grave. Without hesitation, they followed orders and flew up into the air. Soon, not a single member of the 5 Poisons tribe remained. Nearly 20,000 cultivators and tens of thousands of neodemons roared through the air and disappeared into the distance. Zhao Yulin flew with them, but glanced back at the Crow divinity tribes and the Thorn Rampart, her eyes sharpening. You will pay tenfold for severing my arm, she thought. Then she turned and followed the rest of the 5 Poisons tribe members off into the distance. After the 5 Poisons tribe left, the Thorn Rampart slowly retracted and disappeared. Meng Hao rose from his cross-legged position and looked off at the horizon. Behind him, the more than 2,000 surviving tribe members cried out in relief. Their happiness could not dispel the shadow lingering over Meng Hao's heart. The Crow soldier tribe greatfather's face was bitter. Is it true? Said Meng Hao slowly. For the 5 Poisons tribe to make such a hasty exit indicates the legendary apocalypse is likely coming. Spell formations will become inoperable. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth will be extinguished. All life will be destroyed. The only hope is to migrate south, said the Crow soldier tribe greatfather, his voice low. Head south to the Black Lands. The Black Lands. Meng Hao's body shook. Like the high priest, he thought of the war the western desert had waged in the Black Lands, and of the tribes entering it during his departure. So this is the reason for all of it. Finally, he understood what had long confused him. This was why war had broken out in the Black Lands, why the western desert participated with such fervor, and why the southern domain allowed it. A great apocalypse was coming. If the southern domain obstructed the western desert, full-scale war would result, something they wouldn't want. Meng Hao looked up at the increasingly heavy rain. A gleam appeared in his eyes. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is being extinguished. All living things will be destroyed. The continent will turn into a sea. For me, it's not that bad. After using the East Pill Everburning Flame to form my fire-type totem tattoo, I know all things in heaven and earth exist on the path of the 5 elements and have the potential to give enlightenment. What better water than a sea? And what better sea than the western desert apocalypse? As for the spiritual energy being extinguished, with the exception of ultra-high-grade spirit stones, I've gone many years without absorbing it. I've supported myself by consuming medicinal pills and carefully controlling my spiritual energy use in combat. I've constantly improved my pill concocting skills. For the same reason, I was always inclined toward being a dragoneer. Only dragoneers can grow strong without wasting much spiritual power. The main thing I need to be careful of is that the rain can exterminate life force. In any case, I'm the most suitable person to exist within the western desert apocalypse. His eyes glittered. Then he looked at the rejoicing 5 tribes members. They didn't know about this apocalypse. The happiness of the children made him think. "Golden Crow," he said, closing his eyes, "I have accepted your legacy. Your tribe calls me their sacred ancient, and I am connected to them through totems. Is this the protection you wish me to give them?" At this moment, all sky and land of the western desert north was filled with violet rain. No sun could be seen. Everything was dark. This dusk would last a very, very long time. Down on the ground, water pooled slowly. More and more puddles could be seen. It wasn't just in the north. In the east, west, and south, violet rain fell. More and more cries of alarm could be heard. Hearts shook. The western desert apocalypse was nigh. This chapter was sponsored by R. Moore, Brett Flowers, L.B. and Carter B. Migration. Throughout the western desert, all tribes soon reached the same bitter decision. To make such a decision was easier said than done. For the Crow divinity tribes, migrating meant death. Throughout the western desert, teleportation spells rapidly ceased to function. In the low-lying north, violet rainwater collected in vast amounts. Rain from the west, south, and east flowed downward to accumulate there. The north would be the first place the sea would rise. Had the 5 Crow divinity tribes not warred with the 5 Poisons tribe, they would have been powerful enough to migrate. Unfortunately, their total population was now around 2,000, children, elderly, and all. With more than 10,000 members before, their power was critically reduced. Moreover, with teleportation portals non-functional and more than half the tribe ordinary mortals with no cultivation base, they could not fly. They would have to travel on foot. The Great Father stood next to Meng Hao, his hair gray, his expression exhausted. He smiled bitterly. "We can't travel on foot to the Black Lands. We're too far away. Even a nascent soul cultivator flying without rest would need 10 years. On foot, it would take more than 1,000 years. Would the Crow divinity tribe survive that long?" He turned back to look at the tribe members erecting wooden shelters. "The violet rain will continuously extinguish the spiritual energy. Eventually, we would all become mortals. The rain's will of extermination would corrode our bodies, weakening us to death. The children and ordinary members would die first. Then the rest would follow until the entire tribe was wiped out during the migration. Moreover, all western desert tribes will migrate at once. Food and resources are scarce, and the road will be filled with chaotic battles. Tribes will constantly contend for survival. The Crow divinity tribes cannot survive that. Even if we lasted 1,000 years and weren't swallowed by another tribe, how would we qualify to enter the Black Lands? Space is limited. How could we get in amongst so many great tribes? How could they accept us?" Meng Hao stood silently. He had seen weak children grow weaker after touching the rainwater. This violet rain would exterminate everything. "Because of this, exalted sacred ancient, I urge you to leave." The Great Father's voice was decisive as a blade. "Leave this place and the Crow divinity tribes. Sacred ancient, with your cultivation base and status as a grand dragoneer, any tribe would accept you during this crisis and bring you to the Black Lands. This is your only hope." The Great Father looked back at the 5 tribes members building huts. Their eyes were filled with sorrow and grief. "We will not leave our homeland. If we are doomed to be exterminated, we will die together and be buried here with our forefathers. Perhaps some of those children will grow up." The Great Father looked like his life force was slowly flowing away. Meng Hao stood quietly, unsure what to say. He looked at the silent 5 tribes members. Wu Chen, Wu Ling, sleeping children calling for their mothers. Tears were being shed. Elderly ones longed for loved ones. Many, many familiar faces surrounded him. He had only 2 choices, go or stay. If he left, he was the most likely to survive the violet rain with his special abilities. But if he stayed... Meng Hao let out a soft sigh, then walked over to the tribe members. They looked toward him, eyes hot with zeal. With a slight smile, he continued to the back of the mountain and his courtyard. Rain fell heavily here. He sat beneath the eaves, surrounded by his neo-demon horde. Big Harry lay next to him, letting out light yips, wounded but not fatally. Meng Hao now had only 6,000 neo-demons left, all wounded and healing naturally. Gula braved the rainwater, giving them food and treating minor injuries. The sky was dim, and the rain continued to fall harder. The vast sky and land transformed into a depression that weighed down on Meng Hao and the Crow divinity tribe members. "Perhaps I should wait for the parrot to return and then leave. Leaving is the best decision." However, he fell silent. During his entire time in the western desert, he had lived amongst the 5 Crow divinity tribes, achieved his goals, yet they paid the price. Objectively, everything was not Meng Hao's fault, but his heart found it hard to shake off the deep emotions he felt. The Great Father's words made sense. The 5 Crow divinity tribes had no ability to migrate, and even if they did, they would never enter the Black Lands. When Meng Hao thought of the Black Lands, he recalled the war he had seen there and the Western Desert cultivators who had fought. What an incredible plan, Meng Hao thought, his eyes flashing. Because of this apocalypse, the entire Western Desert will focus on the Black Lands. Soon, the great tribes who control it will bare their fangs. Time passed slowly. 2 months were gone and the violet rain never ceased. It only grew harder. Meng Hao could no longer stay behind the mountain. It had turned into a stream as deep as one's knees. The 5 Crow divinity tribes moved to the mountain peak and built huts to shelter themselves. More than 2,000 people lived silently inside. Already, tribe members were visibly weakening. Meng Hao sat cross-legged on the mountain peak, looking at distant mountains. Once green and verdant, they were now deathly dark gray. All vegetation had withered and died. Every day, neo-demons ran or flew away from the deep mountains. Cultivators weren't the only ones migrating. Neo-demons were too. The land in many areas had turned violet. Streams flowed together to form rivers. It was easy to imagine the rivers merging into lakes, then into a sea. "If I can't take you with me," said Meng Hao, "then I will stay here. We will await death together. I will not let the violet rain bury you. The tombstone of the 5 Crow divinity tribes should have all of your names carved on it." He felt deeply melancholy. The 5 Crow divinity tribes had no hope to hold anymore. The Black Lands might count as hope, but it was intangible and stagnant. Besides, the path would be rife with countless tribes charging to the same destination. The 5 Crow divinity tribes would struggle to find a place amongst them. "Maybe there is some other hope to be had," murmured Meng Hao, lifting his head to look at the violet rain. A month later, hope appeared, not just for Meng Hao, but for all 5 Crow divinity tribes. It came in the form of a voice. The voice echoed throughout the entire Western Desert, north to south, east to west. It was impossible to say if it was a magical technique or divine ability. The voice was archaic and ancient. "To all fellow countrymen in the Western Desert, greetings. We are the Heavenly Court Alliance of the Black Lands, formed by the Heavenly Pursuit Tribe, Wild Flame Tribe, and Demon Butterfly Tribe. This is our first public announcement to all cultivators in the Western Desert." Meng Hao looked up. The Crow Soldier Tribe Greatfather opened his eyes from meditation. All tribe members gazed at the sky. At this moment, all tribes in the Western Desert stopped. Some were migrating like the Scorching Ice Tribe. Others were camped, resting. Others, like the 5 Crow divinity tribes, had decided to remain in their homeland. All cultivators began to tremble, looking up. Everyone, even the 5 Poisons tribe. Everywhere, all tribes looked up. The violet rain has come, and the Western Sea apocalypse is here. This rain will exterminate all life and extinguish all spiritual energy. Roughly 90% of teleportation portals in the Western Desert are not functional. There is only one hope amidst this apocalypse: the Black Lands. Thankfully, we enacted plans years ago to carve out a place for Western Desert tribes to survive within the Black Lands. Space is limited, and not all tribes will be permitted to enter. We do not have the right to decide who is most qualified. Therefore, we will give all of you a chance to find a demon spirit. According to our augury and ancient records, whenever the Western Desert turns into a sea, heaven and earth experience changes. Demon spirits emerge in the lands, no more than 10. Any tribe appearing outside the Black Lands with a demon spirit will be qualified to enter. We will only accept demon spirits. The voice stopped, but echoed throughout the Western Desert. The countless people who heard it began to breathe heavily, their eyes growing bloodshot. Meng Hao's eyes began to shine brightly.